and or watching to the Black Eagles podcast, a Beşiktaş talk show.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru aksın kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Zuma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Hello, Black Eagles. Get hyped from the Black Eagles podcast. The intro song. I'm getting hyped just listening to it. Produced by a certain Mame Thiam, Sinan, who is an acquaintance of ours.
Venomous villain.
So, welcome back to the Black Eagles podcast. For a while now, you've been seeing our European team. Of course, with the Europa League exit, we switched to the Conference League team. And now, for the first time this season, you're seeing our normal flagship show team back again. I am making a little tweaks here and there and considering some changes. But for now, we're going to continue this way. We're happy with how it looks. But let's get into it. We, of course, are going to talk about the season opener in the Super League. Yesterday against Eyüpspor, a dramatic 2-1 victory for Beşiktaş at the death with a Last-Gasp goal from Rafa Silva. A fantastic moment, I think, something that we've lacked in recent years, to get a goal like that in such an emphatic fashion. But let me first introduce my co-host from New York City, New York, is the professor of the podcast, Mr. Sinan Schwarting. Sinan, how are you doing, buddy? Looking dapper in your white shirt there. And do you have a little high collar up as well? What is that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got a little undershirt underneath. You know,
I thought you were wearing like a little turtleneck underneath or something.
No, nothing too clever. Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling great. Really, like, I think where I'll start is by simply saying that as far as a season debut goes, this match had it all, and obviously, it helps that we won, but it was a fantastic outing. It was, I think, for a neutral, probably a great advertisement for the Turkish game, complete with shitty refereeing, all the intensity and emotion you can ever expect out of Turkish football to the last seconds, right? Like, so, I feel pretty good. How about our friend Kartal?
Don't know if it was really an advertisement for Turkish football, given how little the ball was in play. What did you think, Kartal? Was it advertisement for Turkish football?
I mean, the refereeing standards weren't good, but in terms of the game, especially in the second half, I thought it was a very high-octane, exciting game where in the second half we created numerous opportunities, could have scored plenty, but it did take us up to the last minute to score in the second half, that is. First half, we started very well, I thought. Well, not very well, we started well, let's say. We didn't maybe create enough, but the press was very good, the intensity was good. I think that was there almost the full game. We went 1-0 up through Tammy Abraham's penalty. We really probably should have had a penalty before that. When João Mário was brought down in the box, that should have been a penalty as well. But after 1-0 was all good till then, but then after we actually conceded, I think from when we conceded to the end of the first half, we were pretty poor, but the response was phenomenal from the boys in the second half. I think maybe didn't play quote-unquote beautiful football, but the intensity was top-notch. We got into plenty of chances, should have scored a lot more, and ultimately we kept knocking on the door, and ultimately at the end we went crashing right through that door with a phenomenal statement goal from our talisman, our Portuguese magician, Rafa Silva.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And I just want, in fact, I want to say already, see anyone that was upset that we won last night and was talking shit about the coach.
Upset that we won?
I mean, obviously no one's admitting that, but let's be honest, I think a lot of the quote-unquote Beşiktaş supporting reporters were upset about the win last night. Because they've clearly got a fucking agenda, man. And I think the club has to come out and make a statement about these people.
You think they were sharpening their knives and were
of course,
trotting,
we won the one.
frothing at the mouth for a bad start and a 1-1. That's what you're.
With the limited resources that Ole has at his disposal, I think it was a good performance last night. The team was very hungry. We pressed brilliantly. You can tell if we complete the missing pieces, it will be a lot more effective. It will be a lot more efficient. So I think anyone that criticises the coach, and that's basically all these fucking reporters that think that act as if they're pundits, but let's be honest, they're just journalists who clearly have an agenda against foreign coaches and want the old guard Turkish coaches in so that they can get more scoops, clearly. Because all of them, weirdly, are criticising Ole after this game, when I think in terms of coaching performance, it was a very good performance. The changes he made, he got a big impact from them. I would swear, I really want to swear, but I'm not going to because I've seen how that can end up.
Ketal, it's interesting because after the full-time whistle, we did see Ole go to the stands and applaud the fans, and he got met by boos. But surprisingly to me, on social media, fans are actually getting behind the coach and are...
Of course, as they should, man.
Anyone
that doesn't after that performance last night isn't a Beşiktaş fan. The people booing in the stadium, I've got a feeling they were too busy on their chance and not watching the game and still pissed about the first half against St Patrick's and the Shakhtar games. That's the only thing I can think of. Because how can you boo that coach after that performance? That team left it all on the pitch last night. They left it all on the pitch.
Yeah.
When was the last time you've seen us play that intensely with our press? Probably the start of last season.
It was definitely... I fully agree with you that the boys left everything on the pitch. I wouldn't say it was necessarily a good game. I don't know what you think about that, Sinan, in terms of commitment from the team. Of course, I think we can't fault them. I don't think we can really fault the players. I don't think we can necessarily fault the coach. I think there are things to be criticized. Not the things that these journalists are criticizing necessarily. For me personally, I think the fact that Keny Arroyo stayed on the bench as an unused sub is a travesty. And that Milot Rashica only got taken out after the 96th minute winner. I think that's also a bit of a travesty, given the fact that, he started okay. I think he played, for Rashica standards, I think he played a decent enough match. But I don't think you can justify leaving that man on the pitch for 96 minutes and not giving Keny Arroyo any...
One thing I'll say though, Rashica worked his arse off last night. The balls he chased after, closed down, pressed, won the ball back.
I don't care.
We wouldn't have got that from Keny, I don't think.
I don't
have got that.
I don't care. I don't care. I've seen Keny play in recent games, and he's worked his ass off too, and he adds a lot more eccentric quality going forward. And given the fact that we still have chance creation issues, yes, in the second half we managed to force our way through and created good chances. But in the first half, first 30 minutes, our intent was really good. Our press was 70-80% effective, but they were able to play out from under it relatively frequently, which caused us problems. I think that if you have a chance creation issue where you where you go through that much energy in the first 30 minutes, you commit so much to that press, to pressing up high, winning the ball back. I think not to create more chances is obviously, if you look at the limitations of the squad, okay, it's understandable. But when you look at the fact that you have Keny Arroyo on the bench, I don't think you can just turn a blind eye to that fact. I think you need to criticize that decision not to play him at all. And I think that's fair to criticize him. Yeah. Yeah. All right, Ketal, your response.
I mean, look, I think if you say Keny should have got some minutes in this game, and I think that's a fair criticism. I don't have a problem with that at all. But people saying that Beşiktaş didn't show any plan yesterday.
Oh no, that's if you say that you didn't watch the game.
That's what Firat Günayer and all these other journals are saying, which is absolute nonsense, man. They've clearly shown, like, before, you could have maybe had some doubt that they had bad intentions. Okay, we all kind of thought some of them, a good few of them may have, but I think after last night, I can say with 100% certainty that these guys have bad intentions and they're only in it for themselves. They don't give a fuck about the club. I can say that as a fact now. And I think the club needs to make a statement about the journalists in question.
And which journalists are those? Just from my own personal curiosity, I saw a little edit pass by on Twitter, but I don't really pay too much attention to what these people say. I'm only interested in hearing their scoops on transfers. I'm not interested in their opinions because, quite frankly, their takes are usually dog shit anyway when it comes to football. So, not to say that my takes are great by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not suggesting that, but like, I think if you're going for football opinions, you should go to people who actually understand the game a little bit, and these people don't. Like, if you're talking about like Firat Günayer, like if you saw like his tactical analyst videos, I don't know if he still does them, but like, they're just it's like watching a middle school child do a book presentation, you know?
Yeah, no man. Firat Günayer, Sercan Dikme, and then there was some guys on a stream with Şafak Malatya as well. I'm sure there was a fair few more, but I can't say that I've sat and watched them all, but I have seen quite a few. And the interesting thing for me is that Firat Günayer has often been said to be the journalist that Serdar Adalı is the closest to. So I really think Serdar Adalı needs to address that with him and call him out.
Yeah.
I think see anyone that slandered the coach after yesterday's performance, I think.
Do you think
all of them I think all of them should be banned from having any access.
Do you think that might, like, you know, tinfoil hat? Do you think that that's deliberate? Perhaps maybe that's what the president wants. Have all the heat on the coach, so it takes the heat away from the lack of transfers.
Yeah, possibly, man. It could be. If that's the case, it's a disgrace and they should resign straight away. Obviously, there's no way of us proving if that's the case or not, so we can't make any comment on that acting as if it's like a fact, so we can't do that.
What one could argue that if he does not slam these journalists, that's, you know, sometimes you say more by not saying anything.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, last week he did come out in support of the coach, so
yeah.
But I do think a statement was needed after this game. I think those journalists should have been slammed, but it also could be an aspect of he wants to stay on these guys' good side, because unfortunately, the sad reality is these guys have a lot of influence over their fan base, which is ridiculous, but they do. They've got a lot of followers. These journalists, they've got mass outreach. Their videos or live streams get tens of thousands of views. Their tweets get millions of views, thousands of interactions. So unfortunately, these guys are guys that have high influence in our community. And if, let's say, the president was to be on their bad side, that it could affect the president's term. I think we actually saw that with Hassan Arat. Okay, Hassan Arat has probably deserved most of what was said about him, considering how it all played out. But I think it certainly didn't help that it seemed like they had the media against them from day one almost.
Yeah. Maybe, but you know what, with Hassan Arat, I also think he very much went head on against them. And I think at the end of the day, if his leadership would have been good, he would have won that battle, but he sabotaged himself by being incompetent. I think if you as a president are competent and you take that type of a stance against the media, you can get the fans on your side, because he had the fans on his side in the beginning. The fans were with him. And the problem is that even though these guys weren't right, he ended up proving them right. Not really, but like, you know, it's like when you write 10 names, oh, Beşiktaş are interested in this guy, and then like a month later, Beşiktaş end up signing by coincidence one of them, and then you're like, oh, look, I said this, I was the first. You know, that's exactly how this is. Like they're spewing a lot of garbage, they're throwing bullshit out there, and then in the end of the day, when the project failed under Ayat, they can say and they can point back to certain things they maybe said, and it's like, oh, look, I was right all along. And unfortunately, a lot of the fans will believe that. Maybe though, I don't know if I'm being too optimistic and maybe a little bit too, because we were kind of in this ourselves. Maybe, hopefully, at some point, like, fans will turn more to fan-run projects like the Black Eagles podcast, like maybe, you know, Eagle Media. But, you know, I think Eagle Media last season had a very negative influence as well. You pointed out that they were actually, Bülent Uslu was being very positive yesterday about the performance and all that kind of stuff. And we're seeing that now as well on social media, that a lot of fans are turning against this negative agenda that clearly these people have.
Yeah, I didn't see Bülent Uslu because he wasn't on Eagle Media last night, and actually I've not watched it because I told you guys before we went on there I've been busy today, but I can see that all the Eagle Media staff were very positive about the game yesterday, so that's all the guys that go on their streams. And Bülent Uslu, I did see put out a tweet basically calling out the people that are doing this campaign against Ole. So Eagle Media as a whole, as an organisation, seemed to be very positive about the performance yesterday, and that shows that these guys actually are fans and they do care about the club, whereas these journalists, man, as I said, like, they don't give a fuck about the club. I mean, Firat Günayer got his first break as a reporter for Fenerbahçe, so there's a good chance the guy wasn't even a Beşiktaş fan.
Yeah.
Considering they first reported for Fenerbahçe.
Beşiktaş did buy him new hair, though.
Yeah. I mean, you think he would be grateful for that, but clearly not. Going off of what he's
I think
saying.
the unfortunately, the negative thing about you know, what I was saying, like, hopefully fans turn more towards fan-run projects. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, fans are going to end up keep going towards these people because they are the closest you get to information, right? Like, yeah. Maybe it's time for Serradal to start feeding us some information. All right, let's. We've been talking for a while now. Let's get Sinan's thoughts. Volume. Oh. Okay. I think it's switched back now. All right. Now your volume was coming through your feed again. But before it was coming through Kartal's feed. So what you just said, they didn't hear it. So you can. But you don't have to.
That's fine. It was.
No need to.
That was just technical. Thank you guys for the technical feedback. That's what we just resolved, I think. So let's see. Where was the question? If I like how I thought Ole did?
Well, no, just in general.
Where are we going? Or just general thoughts on the match? I mean, because I will say,
did you think that? What did you think of the performance yesterday? Obviously, I think the pressing that you know what? I mean, I don't want to get into it yet because I want to get your thoughts first. But what did you think of the pressing? What did you think of the first half hour? What did you think of the 50 minutes afterwards once we conceded? And then what did you think of the second,
those are the three phases.
The second half, you know.
Yeah, no, I thought we came out really well, very focused, a little like edgy, right? Like we missed a number of chances. Rafa, obviously, like he was on course to having a terrible match, but one that showed what he's capable of, right? Because he was kind of creating these chances, getting into positions that nobody else could get in, but then kind of blowing them, right? Like he screwed the pooch on a couple.
Yeah, there was one where it was harder to hit it wide than hit the target, and he hit it wide.
Yeah.
In the first half,
he had a couple.
In the first half, it's Trivela. I don't know if you guys noticed.
Yeah. That was oof.
Not so much the Trivela, but the fact that Tammy is getting into a one-on-one position, if he slips him through instead, that's a clear-cut goal chance. And instead he goes for glory. I think he should have opted for the pass there. And he should have seen that run.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, and he did a lot of good passing, to be honest. But like, you know, there was a lot lacking, and I think you could tell that there was maybe in his mind a degree of pressure. Right, he's been under the microscope a bit since Orkun came in. People are kind of putting him, people doubting what he can do with this side. And I think in a funny way, he showed that he is very capable of it. And he was just kind of having one of those days. But besides that, I mean, Generally, I'd say I'm less critical of Ole on the Keny thing in that I'm still just very hopeful that this is some sort of like tough love. We're gonna like this is the phase of like teaching this kid professionalism. You know, maybe he's just really fucking off in practice or something. That's what I'm hoping for, and I guess I'll just leave that.
Then he has to feel super confident in his position, right? Because otherwise,
yeah. Well, and I don't know if you saw Con. He almost came out. He was warming up to come out. And he was gesturing to the fans and like having fun. And the coach in charge of fitness was like, "Hey, Keny, like, get over there and run, man. Focus." And then he didn't come back out. So I don't know if anyway. I'm gonna leave that aside.
I think it was something different. I know Ndidi got injured, so I think it was a.
Yeah, I think he had to change his. Yeah. I don't think it was just that he was goofing around, like. But anyway, point being, I'll leave the Keny stuff to the side. If there is one tactical, perhaps mishap, you could say it's playing Emirhan as a left back. One thing that Ndidi, I mean, but to be fair, I think perhaps it was a trial run. Like, let's see what happens when you put Ndidi out there. And what he immediately provided, which was fantastic, honestly, was that you had such cover in the back that you even saw guys like Felix and Paulista doing their jobs quite well because they could just kind of do their jobs and they weren't getting caught having to run back that much because Ndidi really like solidifies that back line in a way where then you have a left back who can really have the freedom to bomb forward. And of course, that's Emirhan's weakness, right? He's a central back covering on the left side. So if in a sense, this was proof that the Eurosec thing could actually work. And I'm kind of eager to see him play. It's a shame he was injured. For anyone who doesn't know, he had a hamstring injury kind of last minute. And Mucci also got... I mean, he was supposed to start...
Jurasek might have picked that up on Thursday, you know? Because I think we all kind of thought that didn't really make sense to take him out. So that made it...
No, and that would explain that move too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, what I would say though is... One criticism of the game yesterday, did you guys not feel like we struggled to hold the ball in midfield, and it was midfield was getting bypassed a bit too easily?
We were playing the long. I mean,
there was a lot of kind of back and forth.
What I'll say, Carter,
because normally you try and you could try to lock it up in the midfield, but I feel like our midfield was getting bypassed too easily. And one thing I noticed as well is in the first half anyway, Ndidi was actually forming a back three, and actually Svensson was being sent up as well. And because of that, Rafa Silva had to drop deeper as well, so that Orkun would be isolated in the midfield. But I kind of feel like that's not where Rafa's at his best, man. Like Rafa, if he gets the ball closer to goal in that final third, that's where he's more dangerous. So there's a couple of things maybe I would have tweaked in that first half. I think in general in the full game, our midfield was bypassed too easily, although I did like Ndidi's fight. He's clearly a warrior. Get stuck in when it's I appreciated that.
My take on that, Cartel, let me reply. So I agree, but I think a lot of it was discomfort, like Ndidi not quite knowing how much he needed to stay back and defend, how much he could come forward and support as he's obviously settling in and gaining a sense of who does what, how. Yeah. I think he got a pretty good idea of what Rafa's capable of after that match for sure. And I think even Orkun, again, quietly had a fantastic game. And in a way that I think, again, my first watch through, I was like, yeah, Orkun was good. Like, he was pretty good. And then my second watch through, I was like, holy shit. Like, he's, again, just like the puppet master. You know, he's orchestrating everything, and he's coming back and connecting everything. I mean, you're right, Kartal, to some extent. What I will say also is that because Ndidi was fairly reliable defensively, even if his tackle wasn't as sharp, again, first appearance, all that, just having someone positionally to rely on, I think they were kind of letting the defenders defend to some extent. And so a lot of the chances, and I put them in quotes, were allowed to the extent that we'll let you get close to an extent and take a shot from distance. So like their shot numbers, for example, when we look at the stats, I wouldn't be surprised. I actually haven't seen them, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're up there to some extent. But they were terrible shots, and they weren't really quality looks. They only really maybe had, I mean, besides the goal, I think I can think of like one clear-cut opportunity for them. And so for the most part, it was kind of like, with the quality we have back there, we're going to let those guys defend, and that included Ndidi, perhaps a little too much. I think Svensson had a pretty rough game, I'm not going to lie. And like, I don't know what we're looking for in that profile. If it's a guy who could do more in terms of supporting the back line to allow Ndidi to go forward more and be more supportive in the midfield, or what, or have a right back who can kind of move in centrally and maybe
we have a right back.
Plant Ndidi in that
Sinan,
thing.
we have a right back. Taylan Bulut made his debut in this game.
Right, indeed. Yeah, and then the question is like, so is Svensson going to be our backup, or are we going to bring in? I mean, there's question. I think that might be the solution if Taylan is good enough, and that was perhaps, and then that maybe still is perhaps the biggest question going into the season is, do we have a starting right back? Because Taylan, like, I mean, look, the funny thing was he came out, the first touch he had on the ball was like a bad first touch, and he stumbled and lost the ball and damn near gave them a chance. And I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
But then literally from that point on,
let's talk about Taylan a little bit. I want to get onto the lineups first, and then I want to get into the debutants a little bit more, and Ndidi and Taylan, and also Abraham, who made his Super League.
But so anyway, just to sum up. So just to conclude, though, to sum up my thoughts, I actually think we played quite well, with the exception of like right after they scored, we slipped up. We kind of like mentally were like, this is a game. These guys might be competitive, right? But then second half came out, looked like the better side again, dominated. I thought most of that half, should have probably ended up with 4 goals by the end of the match. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that tactically speaking, like when you're, again, considering that we played without wings, I think it was actually a pretty good match. I'd love to see what we looked like with a good winger or two, if we can play with that degree of intensity.
And also,
massive shouts to João Mário, Tammy Abraham, and Rafa Silva for their press. And there again, you'll note that of the 4 attackers, 1 was missing. Rashica, as Kartal said, was working his butt off, was coming back a lot to defend, and this wasn't like his worst outing by any stretch, but he was not contributing much to the press, which kind of put a bit of a hole in it often. But anyway, that's a whole other thing.
That's one of the issues as well, Sinan. When you commit to such a high pressing game, the key is to recover the ball quickly and not letting them play out from under it. And the problem is if 1 or 2 people don't fully commit to the press, they're gonna be able to play out from under it. And I didn't look at it, with a fine tooth comb or with like a magnifying glass and identify where the problem lied in the press, because I think I said yesterday in one of our group chats, like, I think the press was good for like 70-80%. We need to get it to like 100%, obviously, because otherwise they can play out from under it constantly. And it does, even in the second half where we created a good amount of chances, and we definitely deserve to win based on the chances, they did threaten quite a bit, and they were able to play out from under it quite a bit. I thought Kerem Demirbay, if this match finishes 1-1, I think he's the man of the match without a shadow of a doubt. He had a really good game.
He was a pain in the air.
He was a massive pain for us. He hurt us a lot. He won so many duels, started dangerous attacks, put in one really dangerous cross that got headed just wide by Mame Thiam. I think that was probably their best chance of the game, other than their goal.
Yeah.
So
that was his. Yeah, that was a great ball.
Yeah, and there was a few times where Kerem Demirbay was really threatening. And it makes you wonder why, Galatasaray would let him go, because I think he's would have been a good squad player for them. I think, if we didn't have Kartal and Demirege, who we'll talk about as well, because I think both had a positive impact on this game when they came on. It's I would take Kerem Demirbay if it weren't for those two. Anyway, let's have a look at
Actually, real
this
quick.
lineup. Okay.
And real quick, I want to give a shout out to Demirege. We've been real hard on him in every competitive match that he's played until now, and he really did step up yesterday in a major way when we needed him to. So
that spirit, just the way he didn't give up in that ball just before Rafa's goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh man, that was a great contribution. Huge. Shall I do both sides this time? Since we're doing our first match of the season, let's talk about our opponents here. So of course in goal, replacing Berke Uzer somewhat last minute, but again, and this is just the way of things, man of the match perhaps also, if not for the win. Marcos Felipe, or just Felipe. He had a very high rating, by the way, on FOTMob. On the back line, of course, you have Robin Yalcin, a name many will recognize, next to Lucas Claro, who is a 33-year-old Brazilian central defender. On their flanks, defensively, of course, you've got Calegari, 23-year-old Brazilian, opposite Nihad Mujakic, 27-year-old Bosnian. Interesting names that are not so familiar to me. I think for Eyüpspor last season, what really derailed their season was the lack of stability, right? They changed everything up and then kind of lost their... Yeah.
I think Mujakic was at Rize. And Claro, he's been around for a while. I feel like he played for Genç Sterbeli before they got relegated, and of course now they're back. I think it was Genç Sterbeli that he played for. So he's been around the block in Turkey as well. But definitely some new names there. The left back you mentioned, I think, is a new transfer. Felipe
Calegari, right back.
Yeah, he's a new transfer for sure. Felipe. He's definitely a new, but I don't know if he's known, if he's like famous or something. I don't know. But he had
a hell of a game.
I thought so. I think Kartal's brother Özcan didn't think he was good, but that save on Abraham, that save on the header. Wow, that was
oof. And actually, Uduokhai's header was really well placed too. He did a good job getting up there.
Yeah, but there wasn't enough power behind that one.
Yeah, maybe didn't have quite enough. I mean, still though, because the keeper was off of his back foot, so I mean, he did well to get to it. I gotta give him credit.
He did look at it
anyway,
for example, but see, like on that Shika shot that I thought personally, it went in. He got very lucky; it just kind of bounced over.
Yeah, how the fuck did that not go in? that was like the deal that Rashica has done with the devil has like the statute of limitations. It's passed. I think it's he's getting no help from the football
keeper's arm and it like bounces
and somehow over the goal, like just over. I mean, it was like, I thought we were cursed at that point. Anyway, moving on, of course, in the back of their midfield, Yalcin Kayan, bit of a pain in the ass if we're going to be honest. Probably should have been kicked out of this match with that yellow card he got. Could have easily been his second or even third. Next to him, Denis Dragush, 26-year-old Romanian who I think came from Trabzonspor. I guess that
and before
project
that,
didn't work out for them.
Gaziantep before that.
And of course, as we already spoke, German-Turk, 32-year-old Kerem Demirbay, completing their midfield. Another bit of a pain in the ass for us last night, Serdar Güler, 33-year-old Turk. He's been a pain in our ass for years, to be honest. And then, of course, 31-year-old Turk Halil Akbunar played opposite him. And, of course, another sort of serial pain in the ass for us, Mame Thiam, 32-year-old Senegalese striker. And I will say, going into this match, I thought Eyüp was like a likely relegation candidate. But as I recalled the stability that they lacked last season, and you look at the talent that they've brought in and the talent that they've kept, right? They had Emre Akbaba coming in off the bench. I mean, this could be a mid-table side.
Oh yeah.
You know, if they can keep playing the way they did yesterday,
I think they could be solid. People are, they look at their result last week against Konya, and they're like, oh, this team's gonna relegate, blah blah blah. But like, I mean, I think the thing with Eyüp is there were some negative things at the second half of last season where apparently players weren't getting paid and stuff like that, and I think that's probably a big cause of why they derailed in the second half of the season.
Probably as well.
Yeah, but we all exactly. We can't forget the fact that they I think they drew twice against Galatasaray. They were one of the few teams. Or no, actually, I think they might have gotten screwed over in the second game. But they're one of the few teams that were actually able to snoop points away from them last season, and they were really good in the first half of the season. And honestly, the team that I saw yesterday, I think there's plenty of quality there for them to comfortably settle in the middle of the table.
I think up until in the first half anyway, after we had our kind of good period and then they were in ascendancy, I think in that period they were playing very nice football, short passes, they were playing it the right way, quick passes to build up the play. It was really, really nice to watch actually at times. Well, not from our point of view, but as you could imagine from a neutral point of view, it was nice to watch at times. I think they definitely look like a team that's well drilled in their offensive play. What I will say though is the second half it was quite the opposite. I think that as I said just there in the first half, in the portion of the game where they were playing well, it was nice and they were playing the game the right way. Yeah. In the second half, I think they played football in the wrong way.
In the Turkish way.
All the time. Yeah, they were on the ground all the time. Try to stop the game, cool us off. It was disgusting, man. Every 2 minutes, I felt someone was on the ground. And so what I want to point out as well, the referee, Jadon Sancho, showed his double standards again. As soon as one of their players went to the deck, he blew the whistle. But then I'm sure there was an instance where one of our players was on the ground. He let them play on.
There were multiple dangerous counter-attacks that got started with a potential foul on one of our players. Yeah. Whether or not it was a foul, I'll leave that in the middle. But I think it's a typical one of those games where the referee is giving every call to them. Where if one of their players stays down, it's immediately we don't get the opportunity to counter, we don't get the opportunity to attack. But the other way around, it's always immediate whistle. So you're like, the other way around, when one of our players goes down, he always lets play on. And I very often in those situations end up seeing in a replay, it wasn't really a foul, so the referee was justified. But on the other hand, I very often see as well situations where we are on the receiving end of that, where we could have had a promising attack and it's not a foul, but the player just goes down super softly and then they blow their whistle anyway. But yesterday there were multiple moments where I thought, no, that should go play on or should have been called off. And for example, their goal results from a corner kick where both Orkun and Rafa first, Rafa gets clipped on the back of his heels to lose the ball, and then Orkun gets pulled down by a second player, so he can't intervene. And that results in their corner kick, that results in their goal. And in the second half, there were multiple moments like that as well, where there were, to me, at first glance, pretty obvious fouls on their half of the pitch. Then they get to counter, and it leads to, I think, with the Prince Ampong who came on, some dangerous attacks over the left, and it was a very double standard game, a typical Halil Umut game, right? I feel like he's always like that, and there's a couple of referees like that who are very they essentially they butcher you, and I don't quite understand what the point of it is. I almost feel like it's like we decide, and I mean the referees, we decide who we give leeway to and all that kind of stuff. So, like, for example, like the first position with João Mário, I think that's potentially a red card and a penalty. Now, you can argue...
100% penalty.
You can argue he's trying to play the ball. I think that he's playing from behind and he doesn't really have that good of a chance to play the ball. I think he's taking a lot of risks.
Certainly doesn't contact the ball. And I just want to make note of the fact here real quick that Galatasaray was given a penalty on an even far more dubious, softer contact than that. So I don't understand the standards on that.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I often feel where in these sorts of situations where referees are afraid to do anything. Like, I mean, we even saw this in the Europa League last season against Frankfurt. There was a position where it's either a red card or it's an offside. And remember that position where they had to, the ref was called over to the monitor. I've never seen that in my life, where a referee has to decide between offside or red card. And of course, they pick the easy decision, which is yellow card, because it's the least impactful. Even though I think you cannot be certain there. I don't think they could have definitively, because they have the automatic offside system, so they should be able to pinpoint the exact moment the ball leaves the foot, and bam, you need to be able to definitively tell it. And if you need to call over a referee to decide whether or not it's offside, then it's a red card, because that means
But also,
that you're not willing to take responsibility as the VAR ref.
do you remember later in the match there was Eyüp had like the most glaringly obvious offsides position, and they took about like 3 minutes to figure it out, and they let the whole thing play on. Like, Gabriel Paulista ended up having to make a pretty good physical save where he put his body on the line. And again, like, imagine he picked up an injury there because the fucking sideline ref takes 3 minutes to figure out if that was offside, where it was obvious, and the ref, the stadium, everyone else.
Yeah, I know.
And so it's just funny how
Sinan,
it's amazing. But
the problem with that is that's the
takes.
rule. That's the rule. You can't fault them for following the rule. Because the rule is
I'm
wait
just
and
saying,
see.
think about how long it takes them to make that call in that scenario, whereas with the goal they've called up, they immediately mark it as an offsides without having to go to the without even putting any thought into it.
They did.
So it
they
was
didn't.
just sort of remarkable to me how
they did. I don't think they. I think the explanation is that they didn't mark it off for offside. They did not. So the referee didn't give a penalty, right? And there was communication with VAR, and then VAR need to decide, is this a clear and obvious error? Is this a clear and obvious penalty? If the answer is yes, then we go and check if it's offside. If the answer is no, then they don't check the offside. That's why we never got to see the offside line, because apparently the VAR referee decided it wasn't a clear and obvious penalty. It wasn't a penalty in his mind. I think that's absolutely ridiculous, because the player does not play the ball. There's clear contact with the foot. And João Mário is true on goal, one-on-one. Clear-cut goal opportunity. That is always a penalty. I don't think there is an excuse to be made there. I think this is a position where you need to address it as the MHK, the referee federation, or whatever you want to call them. You need to address this.
Legitimize your decision.
This needs to be addressed, and like in certain leagues, they do that. They explain decisions. I don't think you can justify it, but I think you can say, referee was wrong. We'll give him.
This is what we're thinking.
We'll give him a demerit. I think you need to be transparent, especially in a country like Turkey, where there's so little trust in the referees and so little trust in the legitimacy and the fairness of referees and the lack of corruption. There's no trust in that. There's no trust in lack of corruption. Everyone fully assumes it's corrupt, and quite frankly, it's been exposed that the system is corrupt just a couple of months ago with the whole MHK situation where they all had to resign because their WhatsApp conversations leaked. So I mean, it's proven that there's a bias in favor of Galatasaray, and you know that we continue to see that with our eyes, of course. And the problem is they're never going to go the transparent route as long as there is that bias, because that would expose their bias, right? So they're not going to do that, obviously. But that's also why you're never going to get trust in these referees. You're never going to get trust in this federation. You're never going to get trust in the referee organization at that. Yeah, it's never going to happen. Because, I mean, I think this is a clear position that's a penalty and a potential red card. Now, you can debate the red card. Because you can make an argument that he's playing the ball. And I think if you attempting to play the ball, it's making a fair attempt to play the ball. And I think if you can make that argument, then you cannot send him off. I think it's a yellow then. Personally, I think it was a red, but I think you can make the argument. So, you know, then it's up to the referee. If the referee doesn't give the red straight away, then it's a yellow, I think. Anyway, let's continue with the lineup.
So it wasn't an offside?
Not officially. They
wow. So, all right. The announcer on beIN USA called it that way, but
I think the on-field decision was offside, but then VAR looked at it, and it's okay. I think it's convoluted, and I think he should have always called the referee over. But let's continue with the lineup for
the lineups. Yes. Yeah, right. And this is the interesting part, I suppose. Our team, of course, Mert Gunnok in goal, Gabriel Paulista and Felix Uduokhai on the back line. By the way, Uduokhai had quietly a stellar match for us defensively, which was important because I think he was coming off some sort of shaky performances. I guess also injury, whatever. But anyway, Svensson played on the right side opposite Emirhan Topçu, who we already discussed, playing out of position in his defense. And of course, Wilfred Ndidi as the 6, Orkun Kökçü as the 8 behind Rafa Silva. Interestingly, Ernest Mucci is still listed as the starting right winger opposite João Mário.
Oh, yeah.
That would not be the case. Mucci was injured in warm-ups.
That's correct.
Hopefully nothing too serious. And Milot Rashid that would get the start instead, unfortunately. And then, of course, Tammy Abraham would start up top after another good performance. I think we'd all agree.
Yeah.
And that's it for our lineup.
Yeah. Shall we get into the stats as well? Afterwards, we can complete our thoughts on the game. I think,
why not?
And we can start getting into some chat conversation because it seems to be a lively chat again. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong graphic. So here are the statistics for the game.
Statisticos. So 54% of the ball to their 46. Number that was like all over the place during the match. We had much more of the ball at a certain point during the second half. I'm not sure how it got closer at the end. Maybe, I guess at the very end, they probably had a lot of the ball as they were desperately trying to get a goal. And that last, it would just be like about 2 minutes, maybe a minute. Anyway, XG was 2.8 to their 1.21. That's a solid XG. 18 shots, and as I said, 11 for them, although again, a lot of them were low quality. 9 on target for us, only 4 on target for them. 5 big chances for us to their 2, 3 missed to their 1. I think we can probably think of the 3 that were missed offhand. Accurate passes, we only completed 377 at an 88% clip to their 300 at an 82% clip. It's a very small factor in things, but we might want to talk about the pitch. It was not doing very well yesterday. I don't know what that was all about.
It was shit against St Patrick's as well. I think that they had some sort of political event in our stadium, and that.
The shit! Oh no! Wow, the irony. And it hurts us because we want to play that kind of compact, short passing style, whatever. Fouls committed, 14 by us, 10 by them. That's criminal.
Mm-hmm.
HUM should be sent to the courts for that alone. To The Hague. 4 offsides each, 10 corners for us to their 3, which really I think is oddly one of the more telling stats because it really shows how much we were pestering them in their side of the pitch. How about them duels, Carter?
So in terms of the duels, they won actually 51% of them, so it was 53 to 51 for them. Ground duels, they won 55% of them, 44 to 36 to them. Aerial duels, we were actually dominant on them. We won 63% of them, so that was 15 to 9 in favour of us. Successful dribbles, they completed 9 at a 60% clip, which was really, really, really impressive. What that means is they probably would have tried about 16 of them. We completed 7 at a 35% clip. That's a pretty poor showing for us there. So you're probably talking about 20 attempts, only 7 successful ones. Yellow cards, 2 apiece, no red cards. There's just another stat though I really want to bring a bit of attention to. So in terms of touches in the opposition box, we had 44 to their 25. So that shows that we played a lot more of the game in their box than they did in ours, further emphasising our dominance. When you look at the game as a whole, obviously, I do agree that period between Their equaliser on the end of the first half, they were definitely the better team. But overall, it was a superior Beşiktaş side against Eyüp that created a lot more danger than Eyüp did. The XG also proves that as well, as the XG is more than double theirs. In fact, I actually think that Fortmore have been a bit conservative with the big chances missed. They've got 3. I think there's more than that. I think the one that Rafa missed a big chance. I think Tammy missed 2 big chances. I think Uduokhai one was a big chance as well, considering how close it was. Despite, yes, Can made a good point that the ball was travelling quite slowly. I think even João Mário had a really good chance as well, but I think because that was on the edge of the box, they won't count that. We know they're a bit stretched, but I still think that's a very good chance. So I think really you're talking, we could have maybe had 4 or 5 big chances missed as well, and I think there was a couple of scenarios in the game as well where you're kind of thinking like, what's going on, like what are we doing? Like Tammy Abraham pulled one back beautifully, put it across face of goal, but just no one was in the right position to pick it up in the first half. And then
where was Rashida?
And there was a position,
he was like in the goal. I was like, what are you doing there, bro?
There was a position in the first half as well where, in fact, it might be in the second half. The Shika pulls it back to Rafa, where really should have went himself. So that I don't think it's a good sign. I think that shows maybe a lack of confidence on Rashika's part. So it just shows what we were, especially in the second half. The first half we had, a few dangerous moments. I think the Rashika shot that almost went in was then the Abraham pull back, and maybe that one I was referring to where Rashika passed it back to Rafa. I can't remember quite if that was first or second half, but we had a few dangerous moments in the first half, but really in that second half we really came into their own and created a lot of danger. So I think if we can replicate the chance creation at least in that second half going forward, it will help out a lot. But I think you can still definitely see that this team needs wingers. I think once this team has 2 good wingers that can contribute to scoring goals and contribute to creating chances and beating their man and just add a bit of speed and dynamism to the team, I think we're going to be a lot more dangerous.
I think what we're seeing here is we are seeing a team that is still struggling to score and to properly put their mark on a match offensively. And this is, if you look at this game play out, this is one of those matches that could have very easily gone away. This could have gone wrong very easily.
If Thiam scores that header, for example, we're probably going to spiral.
If Thiam scores the header, if one of those Sunday shots flies in, how many games like that just last year did we have where we're not playing bad, but we're not scoring, we're not finding the goal, it's 1-1 or whatever, and suddenly, out of nowhere, a shot from 25, 30 meters out flies into the top corner, and you find yourself in a position where we don't have the strength to fight back into a game like that, because now they're going to go complete hedgehog mode or turtle mode, whatever you want to call it, park the bus completely, turtle in their own box, and there's just no getting through it anymore because we don't have that force. And that's one of the big differences yesterday, though, which I think compared to last season is, yes, I still think if we would have conceded a second goal, it would have been really difficult for us. I do think, however, last season, if that scenario happens, you lose that game. This season, we can at least get a point, I feel like, because we did have that power, that presence in the box with Tammy Abraham, with Demirege coming off the bench. And this is my hot take on Demirege. I see him coming off the bench kind of almost having like a Marouane Fellaini role, as he so often did for Belgium when he came off the bench and had to force the difference. And you know what? Like, we've seen this already in preseason. We've seen this in the games even. Like, he might not be playing a great game, but he has a certain presence in the area, in the air, on set pieces. And also, if you start pumping the ball into the box, Demirege is somebody you can send up together with the likes of Tammy Abraham and all that, of course. And he can have that little bit of a Fellaini role. Of course, Fellaini was an incredibly good header of the ball, and I don't think Demirege is quite there yet. But I could see Demirege develop into a player who snatches...
He's tall.
Exactly,
He's tall.
and he's not just tall, he's also a relatively decent offensive header. or finisher. Like he scored a couple of goals last season for Rio Ave like that. He scored, I think, in preseason maybe. I think he scored a goal, and then he scored a goal, of course, against St. Patrick's last week. So, and there's been a couple of moments where on a set piece he's gotten close to scoring. I think even against Shakhtar. So, I'm kind of seeing that in him, like the defensive midfielder that Fellaini was too, but Fellaini could also play higher up the pitch as an offensive midfielder. I think Demir Ege at a certain level could do that too. I think he could play as a 10 at a certain level. But of course,
good technique, man.
Yeah, but of course, Fellaini was a much more robust player. He wasn't necessarily a very refined passer of the ball or anything. He was much more a power play player. But I definitely see something like that in Demir Ege, and I think his presence that he brought definitely helped. Kat, like you pointed out very rightfully so, that he played an instrumental part to the goal, the ultimate goal in 96th minute, where he didn't give up on that ball, and I think he flipped it over 3 players, and then ultimately the ball kind of gets cleared, but they don't really get rid of it. And there were multiple moments throughout the game like that where you could really see that. Whereas last season, I feel like every team was very calm, very rahat. Whenever we had corners, whenever we were coming up, like they weren't breaking a sweat defending against us. And yesterday, they were having to give it their all. They were having to put their heads in front of it. They were struggling with defending against us, and they were struggling containing us.
Ultimately, they tried to resort to dirty tactics numerous times. At one point, it felt like someone else was on the ground every second minute. That's why we ended up getting +7, man, because they wasted time so much.
And even +7.
It could have been more.
Yeah,
too.
I mean,
it could have been like 10.
It could have been.
Yeah, I'm quite interested, guys. What did you think of Orkun's performance? I feel like he had like a decent game.
Quietly
he had some good passing, but he never really set the world alight. And I actually think that Kartal was actually better when he came on.
No.
What do you think of that, guys?
No, I don't think so. I think in the first half, Orkun was really, really good. Second half, he faded a little bit. Kartal, maybe he seemed better to you because smaller... I don't want to insult your intelligence or anything, of course, but like I feel like smaller sample size, more, the ability, because of how we were playing at that point, because of how... I definitely think Kartal was good coming off, but I wouldn't say Kartal was better than Orkun. I think Orkun, with the time he played, I think he was setting out the lines, he was sending some amazing passes again. I think he just, he's playing a little far from the goal where he's not getting quite involved. But don't forget, he wins the penalty. Don't forget that.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. He does win that penalty. Yeah.
So I
and he had a number of fantastic key passes that like set up some of those chances that we screwed up in the end. Right? That obviously the screw up wasn't on him. Now I actually think Orkun was really good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he was bad. I said he was fine, but.
He didn't. So, Kartal, if you want to know, as far as my whole kind of like plus minus system, I don't award someone like they had one of those like standout performances unless they're like plus. I'm not going to give away my whole system, but unless they're like pretty high in the pluses. And so he wasn't there, although he was really on the cusp. Yeah. Could you guys guess? So there were 2 players who were like there in the full-on green.
Abraham.
I wonder if you guys can guess them. Nope. Abraham wasn't.
João Mário,
he was
maybe?
Also up there. João Mário was.
And
João Mário was.
It has to be Rafa, I
Felix.
suppose.
It was Felix.
Okay.
No. Rafa could have, but he, the glaring chances he missed gave him a couple negatives.
Okay.
Tammy, he would have been there if he didn't have a number of sloppy passes. Like he was actually ironically sharper in the first half than in the second. In the second half, when everybody else stepped up, was when he was kind of, and I think in his defense, he was coming back a lot and kind of working in the build-up.
I don't understand still how he never scored that chance right before Rafa's goal.
Yeah,
how did he not score that?
That's a big
miss
out of mind.
But
the keeper's right in his face, but that chance, man, like the one that came to his feet, man.
Yeah. No, the one Taylan's cross, I don't.
Oh, of course, yeah.
No,
the rebound,
yeah, but,
the rebound,
the rebound. He needs to score that. But the one on Taylan's cross, I think
that was really hard.
He does everything perfectly there, and I think
I gave him a red on the rebound. Not the header. The header,
because the keeper's so close to him, it's hard to get it on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but that's the thing. I think Tammy does what he has to do. I think he does it perfectly. Problem is the keeper also does it perfectly. Follows the ball. He gets really close, gets all up in his face, essentially, like just makes his body really, really big. And from that range, that makes it impossible to get the ball past him. So I think that's kudos to the keeper. But 100% the rebound, he should have put home. But let's not forget, he creates the penalty. He plays brilliantly with his back to the goal. Plays Orkun through with a magnificent pass, leads to the penalty. Then later, he sets up the João Mário chance. He sets up the really big Rafa chance with some really good passing and hold-up play. So, this was one of the questions I wanted to ask you guys, but what did you think of his hold-up play? Because I thought, once again, it was brilliant. And I feel like...
I think it was... he's been really, really good at the hold-up play since arriving at Beşiktaş. And
his technical ability is
I think
sight to behold.
I think he's exactly what I was wanting last year, and what I was saying that we were missing with Hekimoglu. I think he's came in, he's delivered that.
Yeah, but Karta, something we were wanting. I mean, if he continues, if he continues, Karta, if he continues like this, the way he's been playing in these 5 matches so far. Even those games against Shakhtar, where I thought he was good, and he did the same thing that he did in this game. Yeah. I think if he continues like this, and he continues to keep the standard of his hold-up play this high, then I can't even think of another striker that comes remotely close to that. Did we ever have a striker who could do this? Because this is like elite level hold-up play. Negredo maybe.
As I said, Cam, this is exactly what I was asking for last year, and now we've got it with Tammy.
But I feel like it's more. I wouldn't dare to expect this. Like when I'm thinking of decent hold-up play, I'm thinking like Weghorst or Dembaba or Mario Gomez. But like this is another level. But of course,
Tammy is
it's only 5 games. But
you're right. You're probably right in saying Negredo was probably.
Carew. Grey Wolf says Carew. He was good.
Negredo was very, very good at hold-up play and distribution. In fact, maybe he was better than Tammy at it, possibly, because his passing was really, really, really good. But
he wasn't. I don't know if Negredo was. But I'm not sure if Negredo was that good with his back towards goal, though. Like, he was a very good passer of the ball. You could almost say you could play him as a 10. But I
think he was good with the back towards his goal, but I think the big difference, is Tammy's very mobile and Negredo wasn't very mobile. Negredo was pretty slow and sluggish.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Tammy's just a physical force, right? Like, one thing I underestimated about Tammy is just how monstrous he is size-wise. Like, a defender will come up, like, I'm going to get this ball off of you, and it's just not happening. Like, his body, the way he uses it to kind of, like, leverage guys off of him, and he uses his body in such a brilliant way. His size, I mean. Right now, Tammy looks like the perfect profile for a striker. And obviously, we need a backup so that we can, like, take him out of matches sometimes and get him rested, right? We got to keep him healthy, but...
I think
he's great.
Sorry, go ahead, Kath. What were you saying?
Yeah, I was going to point out Nasser's comment. He's spot on. We really, really need a substitute striker.
Yeah,
there's going to be games where Tammy's tired. He can't play every single game.
No.
God forbid, but he might get injured at some point.
He was tired. He was tired the last 25-30 minutes, I think, in this game.
Yeah, it hurt. That's when it hurt his rating, because I think he probably would have been in that top tier.
I mean,
we desperately need a sub striker, man. Like we can't. I mean, even Hekimoglu was injured. We literally do not have someone to come on and take his place. I think that's a travesty.
Hekimoglu,
and he's not the guy.
No, exactly. Like Hekimoglu, if he was there, like the drop off between Tammy and Mustafa would be so massive. Yeah. Like you'd go from being a title contender to a mid-table or relegation side. Like I genuinely think if Mustafa Hekimoglu is your striker, you have one of the worst strikers in the league. And look, he's 18 years old.
He's not there yet.
He's got so much time to develop. He could become a really good player. Maybe I don't really see it there. I mean, I know a lot of the previous staff were super high on his potential. I know Ole is super high on his potential. And look, these people are professionals. They know what they're doing. Yeah. I'm nowhere near, I don't have that experience. I don't have that insight. But what I'm seeing from Mustafa, I'm not seeing a big striker.
I'm not convinced either, Can I just see a player that, physically looking at him, he's got the physical attributes, but
he doesn't use it.
Very, very, very raw, I think.
I have to say, Ole made an incredible case for playing him as a winger that I was kind of skeptical about doing that because it felt like, this kid's probably got to be a striker given his frame and all that, and he's not that good technically. But I think certainly the idea of playing him there and like having him improve in those
that's not
aspects.
New though, Sinan. He's been playing as a winger since he was playing for the under-19s
and even
stuff. So
and some of his more effective performances seem to come from there too.
Don't you think in a way that's like kind of damning the fact? I mean, look, I understand. I think a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he's young enough though. Like if he cultivates the skills by playing on the wing that like make him passable there, it'll only if he ultimately does become a striker, that'll make him more potent.
Yeah, I think in the way
he's not there yet. He's not there yet at all.
Obviously, the way that Ole means it, I think he's going to get more playing time if he plays on the wing, especially given our situation with wingers right now. And that's fair because he wants to give him time so he can develop. But at the same time, I think that also shows that he's not good enough. Yeah. And I think if let's say this week or in the next 3 weeks we sign 2 wingers, then you have hopefully 2 good wingers. You have Keny, you have Mucci, you have Arroyo. Sorry, I said Keny twice there. You have number 7. So then, like, even though I do not like Rashica, like, I still think he's a better option on the wing than Mustafa. Although Mustafa has at times shown that he can create some chaos. But I feel like he's, I don't know, man. Like, he's so raw. He needs loan spells. Not 1, probably 2 or 3. Like, he needs a couple of years out on loan. I mean, now look at Kartal. When we first saw Kartal in, like, 2019 against Wolves, right? Was it, like, 2019?
Not ready.
He was not ready.
Yeah.
Braga. And Wolves as well. I'm sure he played against Wolves.
Yeah, sure. But the first game was against Braga, and I actually think, when he came off the bench, the first time he looked really good, but then after that, he didn't really look up to it.
No, and like, you could see, that's the thing. He was really young back then. He was like 18, 19 years old. You can see there's a talent. There's talent there. You can see it. But it's too raw still. It's not ready. And he went out, spent multiple years out on loan. Like, I think he's like a little extreme in the sense that I think he had like 4 or 5 years out on loan.
Yeah, he's like 25 now, man.
Yeah, he's had.
I mean, he's a real late bloomer. We could say.
I mean, late bloomer.
I think the talent was always visible, man. Like from that first appearance in the Braga game, I thought straight away this guy's a great passer. And look, maybe I'm a tad biased because we have the same name.
I think you are. I think you are. But
a little bit.
But he showed his ability at Umranje in the Birinci League. Then he showed it again in the Super League with Umranje, I think. Then he went to Kayseri for 2 seasons and he showed his ability there. So he showed that he was at the very least a Super League level player. Every time he came back, I thought, no. And now,
not quite.
Every time I've seen him, like in the friendlies, in the Europa League qualifiers, in the Conference League qualifiers, now this game, every time I've praised him, I've said he had a positive impact, he was good. And that's the first time. And look, it took him 5 years to get here, but he got there. And maybe that's what Mustafa Hekimoglu needs as well. Maybe it'll take Mustafa 2 years. Maybe it'll take him 4 years. Maybe it'll take him 5 years. Who knows? But he needs that playing time, that consistent playing time. I've said this so many times. I don't think you're doing Mustafa any favors by keeping him. I think he's going to get way too little chances. I mean, especially if we end up getting two extra wingers and we get a backup striker. Where's Mustafa gonna get his minutes then? right? Like, realistically, unless you have injuries, God forbid, like, he's not gonna get much playing time then. And he shouldn't, I think, because there's people ahead of him that should be getting those minutes. And I think then you're really better off sending him out on loan. And contrary to Simi, I wouldn't include a buyout clause. I would just send him out on loan to a club that's willing to offer guarantees for playing time. And I think that's the way to go with Mustafa.
Yeah. Full agreement.
Yeah. I think, guys, do you want to maybe make some closing comments about the game, and then we can look at the chat, and then maybe talk about some transfer rumors?
Yeah, there's
a
a couple of I have some notes here of questions I wanted to ask you guys, or things I wanted to bring up. I think we've already kind of organically addressed quite a bit of it. I just need to bring up my notes here. Where's my notes app? We've talked about Ndidi a little bit already, but I just want to get your guys' concrete thoughts, especially, I think, Katla, you've already kind of talked about him a bit, but Sinan, what did you think of Wilfred Ndidi's first performance? And look, he didn't get subbed off injured, by the way. He just had some cramps, and I think they just took him off precautionary, because he even said this in his post-match interview, like, I always get this in the first match of the season, I get cramps around the 60th minute. I even told the medical staff, I'm going to get cramps, and, it'll be better going forward in the next couple of games once I get more match fitness. That's what he said. But what did you think of his performance, Sinan and Ndidi? Were you impressed? Do you think he is the right... and maybe this is a chance for me to plug my video. I did an interview with Owen
it was a good video.
From BBC Leicester recently. It's up on under the video section. You can go check that out. Please leave a like on that and share it with your friends. And give it a full watch, and also check out our Conference League preview for the match on Thursday.
I haven't seen this one yet.
No, I don't think many have, because it's only just been posted.
It just came out this morning.
I posted it this afternoon. I had to do the subtitles and everything, so it came out later in the afternoon. So, but go check out those two new videos, the one on Ndidi and the one on our upcoming opponents in the Conference League playoffs, Lausanne Sport. Definitely worth a watch on both of those. So, Sinan, thoughts on Ndidi? What did you like? What did you maybe not like? Did you think it was a good first appearance?
Yeah, it was a good first performance. He didn't top my list by any means. But I mean, to be honest, everybody played well according to my little system. He was sort of in the middle there, but which bodes him well, I think, given how well everyone else played. He was, I thought, like I said earlier, I think he allowed the rest of the team to play more forward to the extent that he was committed to defending, which was in many ways kind of what we need. I think when you see a guy like David Jurasek come back into the lineup, you'll see how he'll be allowed to play the style he wants to play in because of us having a guy like Ndidi. I would really... I hope that we get a right back that enables him, where they have some sort of communication where Ndidi can get forward and the right back can come in more centrally and defend, or whatever it is. I hope there's some interchange that allows Ndidi to, because I mean he clearly has the ability to play a role in the build up and to, I mean, I don't know how precise his passing, but it didn't seem like he had any issues with it. That was one sort of minor note from the interview you did, Con. They were talking about maybe he has some struggles in that regard, but he looked really solid. He was getting the ball around quickly. I mean, if anything, he looked a little like he hasn't fully settled yet, right?
No, of course.
He clearly was learning on the fly,
he's been with the
especially
team.
How to interact.
Yeah, how long?
Like a week.
Yeah, less than a week, I think.
A week?
Yeah,
not even a week.
Not even a week, I think. And I mean, one of the things that stood out positively to me, I kind of liked his passing game. He had a couple of good passes. Kartal, what did you think of his first appearance for Wilfred Ndidi?
I don't think he set the world on fire, but I liked his fight. I liked his grittiness. Maybe some of the timings of his tackles, wasn't too great. It wasn't perfect. It was a little off. Resulted in him getting a yellow card. But overall,
that was really soft. By the way, the guy just flopped.
I think
actually, can we say something about that real quick? That was fucking bullshit, and a huge contributing role in the yellow card he got was because the fucking ref, I won't even say his name, was he was sort of suggesting that he had had a number of fouls that kind of led into him getting there. But like there were 4, I counted, 2, maybe 3 were complete bullshit. They weren't fouls at all. He actually beat the other guy to the ball, and because the other guy would like force a contact and make a meal out of it. They gave the benefit of the doubt to Eyüp's players each of those times. It was bullshit.
And that just harkens back to what we were saying earlier, where they flop, whoop, whistle immediately. Yeah. One of our guys goes down, play on, let them counter, and be dangerous. So that just plays into that completely. And I think that maybe he had a few falls on paper, but like the yellow card was never a yellow card because the guy just flops. Just jumps over him, essentially, makes a meal out of it. Yeah. And right before that was, I think, what was his name? The guy you mentioned him during the lineup that could have potentially...
Oh, Kayan.
Yelchin
Kayan.
He had a tackle where he lifted his foot up and went straight for, I don't remember who it was. I think it must have maybe Rafa or something, or Orkun, I'm not sure. But like that's like an orange card. If there was an orange card in the game, that would have been an orange card. And then, like, immediately after, you give Ndidi this really soft yellow. And your reasoning behind it is, but you've had 3 or 4 falls prior. But there's, like, a plethora of players on the pitch there that had 3 or 4 falls prior already on Eyüpspor's side. And they finished the game without a card. And, like, if you watch more than just Beşiktaş games, if you ever watch Galatasaray games... Watch how many times Lucas Torreira finishes a game with 5 or 6 falls and 0 cards. 0 cards.
It's crazy.
So, I mean, normally speaking, I would say, okay, look, you've got 3 or 4 falls, you get a yellow. Even if they weren't big falls, look, you've had too many, you get the yellow. That's just the way it is. In a normal league, that's how it works. But in the Turkish league, where... one set of rules for Beşiktaş, another set of rules for Galatasaray, another set of rules for Fenerbahçe. Like, there's like 4 or 5 different sets of rules. There's like a set of rules specifically designed for these types of teams that come away at the Tüpraş Stadium and play like this, where, exactly what we've been describing. On one side, you give every single fall. On the other side, you don't call anything. Like, that's a set of rules, right? Specifically designed for this match scenario. And then you have Galatasaray rules who can do whatever they want. They can handle the ball.
Whenever.
They can handle the ball before scoring. They can handle the ball before getting a penalty. They can push over somebody completely. They can bulldoze somebody in the build-up to a goal. No problem whatsoever. We, just as much look at a player and he falls down and it's like, whoop, there goes the whistle. Kartal,
I hate that shit.
Did I get your thoughts on Ndidi? I think I did, right?
Yeah. I said overall, I think he seems to be the right profile we're looking for. I liked his intensity and his grit. But obviously, certain things like his timing for tackles was a bit off.
He needs to settle.
I think he's
time.
only going to get better.
Yeah. But he definitely has a passing grade. I think he had a decent game. I think he enabled other players to play better as well.
And his passing, actually, I think, is better than some of the Leicester fans made out.
That was my take.
That was for me.
One person who said he has 2 left feet. I mean,
that's wrong. Yeah.
If he has 2 left feet, his left foot is pretty good.
All right, then.
That's a good one.
Then Taylan Bulut, less of a sample size, less playing time. His first touch was really rough, and I think all of us kind of collectively groaned. But then, guys, he had not just an amazing cross. He first reads the game perfectly. Eyüp are on the attack. He reads it. He anticipates. He sneaks in, steals the ball, plays it to the center to what I thought was Kartal, but it turns out it was Rafa. Rafa does brilliantly, turning away from his man, then running into the center, plays it back into Taylan, who then takes a little bow around the ball to create separation between him and the fullback, and then swings it in front of goal at the far post where Tammy almost scored the winner. And what a way to debut would that have been for a young 19-year-old player who apparently cost us 6 million euros. And that is, quite frankly, I think I can't. I think that's maybe never been done before. Where we, at least Beşiktaş, I don't think Beşiktaş have ever paid that much money for a Gurbetçi player, because these Gurbet players, they usually come in on the cheap. Because usually they're not really valued that much by their by their German clubs, or even even Ozan, who was a relatively big talent, we got him for 500,000 euros. Tolgay, I think we got him for 500,000 euros. Ahmet Dursun and Ilhan. Well, Ilhan came from Samsun, but he was also a human. But like all these players, Tayfur didn't come directly either. But like so many players who came directly or indirectly from Germany were essentially picked up for an apple and an egg. We just broke our transfer record in terms of transfer fees spent on a defender on a 19-year-old right back from the second Bundesliga. That's pretty crazy, and there's gonna be a lot of expectations to go paired with that. But first impressions from Taylan Bulut. Kartal, let me start with you. I know the sample size is small, but what did you think?
Of Thailand, I mean, to be honest, that first touch I thought was really bad, but then after that, obviously, I think you could tell he was a bit nervous, but after that, it was a beautiful, won the ball beautifully, and then it was a beautiful run, and gave the ball away, got it back, nice 1-2, put in a great cross. And see, to be honest, even when he first made the cross, because it was really weird, because I think it went really high, didn't it, and then it kind of came down. Mm-hmm. So I was like, what the fuck is this? But then it just fell perfectly on Abraham's head.
You were like, this is another one of those Rashica crosses that's gonna go over everyone's head by 2 meters.
That perfectly just like landed like flush on Abraham's head.
Yeah.
And it was a great cross in the end, and almost led to a goal.
Deserved to be an assist.
The keeper done well closing out Tammy, and made it very difficult for him. But it was a really nice moment, and I don't think we've seen that kind of action from our right back since Rozier.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean,
unless you count
our
like
wings.
unless you count like Typhoon as assisting like the first friendly, but we're not counting.
Right.
Sinan, anything you noticed maybe from his brief playing time? I don't think he played that long, maybe 15 minutes or something, or 10.
Yeah, I mean, what I actually his crossing was obviously the draw for most of us, but he even came back, made a couple of nice stops, interceptions. He made one nice stop where he cut a ball out and like stopped the ball while he and the attacker were still running, which allowed, I think it was, I don't remember, maybe someone in the midfield. I think it was Demirege and Kartal did a nice little interchange to get the ball out from there. But he was even effective defensively, which is what maybe you really want to see given what his profile and all that. No, I thought he was fantastic. The crossing was great. I'm going to give a shout out to Atil Malak, who... I think he's referring to just the general lack of crossing ability, but he was like, it was like seeing a pair of boobs for the first time. Sorry for the like. That's exactly. Are there any ladies out there listening?
Exactly.
Sorry for the sexist.
That's exactly what it was like. But there's nothing sexist about that.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I could have come with a more politically correct first time that type of thing. The first time I tasted a delicious meal, or I don't know, had my first doner kebab or something. Either way, you get the drift. It really was. I mean, it seeing a good cross land, like not just one but a couple, was like holy shit. That's amazing. I can't believe I just saw that, especially from a dude who has been with the club for like 48 hours max. You know?
Yeah. So, and also,
I thought that was pretty cool.
The fact that Ole does give him the playing time already after being with the club for 48 minutes, I think that kind of goes against this stereotype idea we have of Ole that he doesn't place new transfers straight away, because he started Ndidi straight away and he gave Taylan Bulut his first minutes straight away. Like, he didn't wait too long. So I think if the player's ready, he's going to give him the time. And then maybe just to round it out, but I see Kartal slipped away, so I don't know if he can hear the question.
I'll go first.
You will go first, indeed. So my final question, really, look, not a lot of options on the bench. So there's only so much that Ole could do. But really, I think all the subs had a positive impact coming on, right? Like,
yeah.
that also.
And I'll tell you what. Here's maybe a hot take. People were really on Ole's case for not being quicker with the subs, because I think it was like the 70th minute when the first two came in. I think it actually made a lot of sense, because you look at the flow of the match, we had taken full control over it, and there wasn't a lot you would have wanted to have changed at the point where
put on Keny.
Typically you'd make a sub.
Perhaps
That's true.
Very
like
frustrated with
Rashica
that.
was the one. Yeah, Rashica is the one where you question it. Although again, like, it wasn't his worst outing.
Well,
I mean,
you know what, with Rashica,
which is
I
saying much,
might
but-
be wrong here and off, because I hate watching it essentially. But like, I thought in the first half he was decent, but like in the second half, like, I feel like he wasn't involved at all. So that, to me,
he ghosted. He ghosted.
So that,
which is right, and then he ghosted for about 10 minutes, and then he got the yank eventually. It should have come faster, no doubt.
I mean, he got subbed in the 96th
all in all, I get
97th minute.
Yeah. Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I thought is he serious? Like, when I saw that.
Oh yeah, you're right. And he was subbed out for Tayyip Townsend.
Yeah, when that's right after we scored, and I thought, when Rashica was coming off, I was like, is he seriously going to put Keny on for 30 seconds? Like, that is like a slap in the face to the kid. Then he did the right thing by doing the 3-man back. He put Tayyip in, yeah, exactly. So for
you're right. That's obviously one sub I would have made just in general, and frankly, I would have just brought Keny out instead of Rashica when Mucci went down. I understood playing Mucci, in a sense, but not Rashica. But that's again, right? Like, we have our own anti-Rashica thing going. But with that said, I do understand why he delayed with the subs, because we were in such a good groove that it's kind of like, do you really want to fuck this up right now? And sure enough, I mean, I think the subs were made more based on when a guy was ready to come out, fatigued, than rather than like tinkering, which, a 60th minute sub at that point would have been for the sake of tinkering, because nobody was really showing fatigue yet.
Yeah.
And so I think he basically made the right call, like, with the timing. Although I do agree, again, maybe at the 70th minute I would have made, instead of 2 subs, I would have made the third, and I would have brought Keny in for Rashica if I didn't just start with Keny instead of Rashica. But that's another thing. What did you think, Karto?
Of the substitutes?
Yeah, the impact of the subs. They all contribute.
I think David again, Carter Kaira made a good impact. Both played well. After we scored the goal and he brought in Tayyip Townsend, I was like, oh fuck, he's going to make a mistake.
Yeah. I have to admit, I was having the same thoughts.
Yeah.
He had a good header. I didn't give him a plus for it, but he actually cleared the ball well.
He did, yeah. And I was saying to him, because I watched the game with my brother and my dad, I was saying this guy's feet are going to be shaking, worried that he's going to make a mistake, because it felt like that. It felt like that last season, man, when he saw the second red card. For the second game in a row, because he obviously saw one in the cup, then he saw one in the league as well. So I was worried they'd just be too nervous about making a mistake, that he would end up making a big mistake. But he headed that one ball away fine, and I mean, I think the game finished very shortly after that.
I think that was good that he wasn't on the pitch for too long, probably.
Yeah. So in general, I think the subs are good. Could they have brought on Keny? Yes.
Should have.
I do think that there must be maybe some sort of issue with Keny. Maybe he's not working hard in training, because otherwise I don't think you can really justify the lack of minutes he's had. So I think maybe bad attitude, exactly. Laziness in training is really the only thing I can think of. But overall, I think the coach done his job yesterday, man. I think the coach deserves praise, in fact, for yesterday's performance. I think he had the right mentality, the right idea, and it worked. The win should have been a lot easier than it ended up being, but that's not the coach's fault. He can't really make the ball go in the back of the net. That's down to the players to do that.
Especially given the choke job they were doing before that last goal.
Yeah. One of the points that one of our more critical fans made was actually a good point, I thought, Sali. He said that it's really good that we got the win, and also it's positive, I think, that we got to see the deficiencies of the team. And I think there were a lot of those that we got to see. Obviously, you know, the lack of a backup striker. We've seen that for past couple of games, the lack of wingers. But also, I think the lack of a proper alternative at left back. Because Emirhan, to me, played poorly.
Shit.
And I think in general, every time he's played on the left, he's had a couple of games like last season where he had to bail us out on the left. And I feel like he was serviceable. So it's like in a situation where you're really, really in a pinch and you don't have any other options, it's okay. But I feel like you
actually,
But when you
let me say something about
Sinan,
that. Yeah.
Please,
no, go ahead.
Before before you play Emirhan and you have an actual left back on the bench with Emre Can, like I don't understand that, you know. So that to me makes Ridvan Yilmaz. To get a little bit into transfer speculation, I do think that for the right price, if you bring Ridvan back, okay, he's made out of glass, but he doesn't need to be your number one. I think, you know, Jurasek should get the confidence, should get a proper run of games. He should get at least 10 or so matches to prove whether or not he's good enough or not. And then if you bring someone like Ridvan in, you actually have a solid backup option. Plus, in a pinch, Ridvan can also bail you out at right back. So I think for the right price, he's still young enough. Like Ridvan's like 24, 23 or 24 or something.
It needs to be like fucking between 500k and $1 million because he's too injury prone to pay a fee for him. So I don't know how realistic that is. Allegedly, the injury came down to about 3 million. And look, the problem with Ridvan, being from Glasgow, obviously, I do take interest in how Ridvan's doing. I read about it. Because obviously he's one of our academy products. Yeah. The issue with Ridvan at Rangers has never been his quality. In fact, he's actually when he's been able to play a run of games, he's impressed. At times he's been one of our best players. But the problem with him is that there's been very few times where he's actually been able to play a proper run of games.
I think second half last season he had a really good stretch of games, and then right at the end of the season he gets injured again. So I think they were like finally like, oh, is he finally staying healthy? And then like, you know, like I think he played like 10 games or something in a row or something, and then it's like bam, he's injured again. It's like confirmation.
A year and a half ago, man, like almost all my friends are Celtic fans because my mum's side of the family, my Scottish side, are Catholic, so I went to Catholic school. And anyone that for anyone that doesn't know, Celtic are the Catholic team in Glasgow, and Rangers are the Protestant team. So in a Catholic school, basically everyone were Celtic fans. In fact, by the time we were in our senior year of high school, the Rangers fans had almost all dropped out, so there was actually more Beşiktaş fans in our year than Rangers fans.
Are you calling the Rangers fans stupid?
So those two Beşiktaş fans, me and
he's not even trying to deny it.
He's not gonna.
Then there was my friend Jack, who was the only Rangers fan in our year, come senior year. Yeah. So there was that shows you like how Celtic dominant these schools are. Because of that,
either that or the fact that all these Rangers fans are dropping out. Maybe there's like an issue.
Maybe they're not very educated.
There was only a few beforehand, but by the time we got to the senior year,
okay,
all but one had dropped out. But the majority of my friends are Celtic fans, and see about a year and a half ago, like Ridvan was doing really well, and my friend Keaton, one of my best mates, actually said to me, I'm worried about Ridvan, he's doing very well. At that point, so that was a time he was doing really well.
Worried because he's a Celtic fan.
I mean, when he plays and he gets, like you said, like a decent stretch of games, I've only seen praise for him. But the problem is people have lost patience. Rangers fans and Rangers as a club, I think, just have lost patience with him. I think I even saw, like, was it you or I don't remember who it was, but like somebody got a tour. Was it maybe Umer or something? Like, I swear somebody in the world.
It would have been Umer, man.
I think
I've been in Ibrox once, and I was in.
Yeah, I think somebody got a tour at the Rangers at the Rangers Stadium, and they talked about Ridvan, and even the tour guide mocked him for being like made out of glass essentially. All right. But so I think Ridvan would be, despite all that, I think for the right price, and if he doesn't make stupid money, I think he would be a good option for squad depth because he has the quality. And if you don't over-exacerbate him with, or like overextend him rather with having to play week in, week out and 2 games a week, hopefully a good physical staff can, or a good medical staff can keep him whole. Sorry, Sinan. It's been a while now. Did you hold on to that point that you were wanted to make?
Yeah. Well, that was why I interrupted you. I had a feeling we were going to get off topic, and I wanted to talk about Emirhan quickly. Just that I felt like I was very harsh in my criticism of him at times. Like people were getting very excited about him, and I was always quick to sort of talk about his sort of being error prone and a little over enthusiastic.
But it comes out more at left back, I feel. I feel like when he plays in the center.
Well, and this is well, I was gonna say that he's actually sort of quietly put together one of the better seasons of anyone on our side so far this season, like competitively. So I wanted to give him his flowers
before you turn him down.
Before I mentioned that he was one of the worst performers yesterday. And again, it's just him being out of position. And I think his weaknesses are exacerbated, right? Because he's not a good crosser on the ball. I mean, he had that really good cross against St. Patrick.
He's not a terrible crosser, I'd say. I think he has the I think for a central defender, I think he has a pretty decent cross. The problem is, like, he doesn't have the ability to get to the back line. His crosses are always gonna come early, like they're early crosses, right? Like he doesn't have it in him to be an actual left back. So also you see it and you feel when he plays there. Like it's kind of like a fish out of water. He's not completely completely unnatural to him, but you see that he's not 100% at ease and he makes some stupid mistakes. And there was one moment yesterday where I got really, really angry. And in Ole's post-match press conference, he mentioned, like, when they were talking about, the ball only being in play for 50 minutes in the Turkish Super League on average. When he was talking about that, my players in training, when they go down, we just keep playing. There's no diving in my team. I don't want that. And I genuinely felt that, and this is not the first time I've seen Emirhan do this, going down easily and then staying down and leaving his teammates on the back foot defensively.
I know the moment you're talking about.
And that pissed me off so much. Imagine if that leads to a goal.
That's the moment I was referring to, though. Every time a Eyüpspor player was on the ground, they would stop playing. The game. But that time he left it. Talking about Emirhan as well, Emirhan was also the player that lost his man for their goal. So there was a lapse of concentration there as well. I think our back four yesterday, Sinan highlighted Uduokhai as being one of his top performers. I actually think Uduokhai, especially in the second half, is very solid defensively, but also he had a few bad moments as well. He lost a couple of balls. And I believe it was him that put it out for the corner that led to their goal. But at the same time, I think especially in the second half, defensively, it was very, very good and was solid and made a couple of key challenges and made some aerial clearances as well. So I think he did overall play a good game, but there were still a couple of sloppy moments there. One of them he did make up for himself, though. He won the ball back after losing it.
Well, and the reason I rated him so highly was, and I think this was what could have been overlooked, but his passing game was really solid, and he was doing a really good job of, like, people would put him in awkward positions by giving him the ball while there was a press at work, but he did a good job of getting out of it and distributing the ball and kind of giving us the opportunity to get the ball upfield. And he actually made some key recoveries in the second half, which for a side where our central defenders are typically a little slow and, like, especially to react, that was a strength of his yesterday. And I think, again, perhaps a big part of it is having a guy like Ndidi, where you can kind of reliably, there's not much dead space in front of the, like, penalty box where we're historically allowing a lot of passes there. With Ndidi covering some of that area, I think it allows our defenders to defend more than they were doing previously, and yeah, I mean they had a pretty solid game, I will say. I think a lot of people's fears about yesterday, like they are creating chances and all that. I think part of it was we were kind of letting them because we knew that we were creating a really solid back line in front of the penalty box. So it was like, yeah, come bring it. We're like, we'll give you a shot from 35 yards out, which we've covered like the key angle. So if you you know,
I don't know.
I'd say we never
could have cut
any chances apart from the one for TM. Like they had a shot from a really tight angle near the end, but I think the only proper chance bar the goal was the header for TM in the first half.
Yeah, that was it.
I think more than the defence, I think our midfield was getting bypassed too easily. That was more my concern. But again, we didn't really give them much, so it's maybe you could argue it's like
it was by design, I think, to some degree.
What's the phrase? It's picking straws or nitpicking. That's it. It's nitpicking at this point.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I noticed, that our midfield was maybe getting bypassed a bit easily. But as you rightfully pointed out, Sinan, overall the defence was solid. We only really gave away one chance, and we actually saw for the most part yesterday that the defence also played a high line, which was something that we all actually really liked under Gio at the start. But Gio later on stopped doing that because he decided that the team was just too old and didn't have enough energy to keep that going over the course of the season. So we saw that be adjusted, which I think was maybe the start of the play going a bit downhill. I think yesterday I think over the European games we've looked a bit sluggish, but I think already in match day 1 of the league we're starting to see the fruits of the intense training camp that they've been talking about, and we knew it would happen. As soon as we heard that Johnny Northeast would be the head of sports science, we knew that there'd be a tough training camp, because he was the head of sports science under Valérien Ismaël, who famously had a very tough camp. And as the season went on, in that season we were really just physically outlasting teams, and that was being accredited to the summer camp that was done by Valérien Ismaël, in which Johnny Northeast was the head of sports science. So we expected that, and I think already on match day 1 we're starting to see some fruits. People were saying that the team looked tired in the European games. That's quite normal. See, once the team's just done an intense camp, that it's normal for the team to look a bit sluggish, a bit lethargic at the start of the season. But what you normally see in that situation is the season goes on, the team opens up, and they start outlasting teams physically, which was what we saw in the season where he'd done he was just the head of sports science during the summer training camp. So I think we're already starting to see the fruits of that, and I hope as time goes on the team's going to get better and better. They're going to get fitter and fitter, and we really start to see us smashing teams in the physical aspect of the game, just outlasting them.
And let's not forget
short-term struggles for long-term gains.
And let's not forget
you're gonna stumble.
The diarrhea epidemic in the team. No, but if you add that up together with the tough training camp, it's not abnormal that we're not 100% yet. So, and this is also, I think, something where I'm talking about, for example, the press, that it's 70-80% what it has to be. I think once we get to a point where that press is, worked out, and where that, just works, not, perfection is hard, but if we can tweak that, and if we can improve that further, and that press can become more collective and just better in general, our conditioning, like you said, we're gonna start picking up. Our team is going to grow into the season. We're gonna improve the conditioning. Hopefully, we're gonna be able to outlast teams, especially in the Super League. The pressing, if that improves as well, I think we have the making here of what could be a really good team. Of course, we need to add those key components as those wingers, a backup striker, very, very important. Potentially another backup for the left back position. But I think if we do all that, and that's a big if, but we are going to improve. And we need to get through these first couple of weeks now And like this Eyüp game was really tough. We made it tougher than it had to be. We had the chances to score earlier. But if we get through these first couple of weeks and we can make a decent start to the season and we can start growing into the season, I think that's also what Ole was saying, where last season we started off the season really, really hot and we were really, really good for a couple of weeks and then we went downhill. And Ole said in one of his press conferences recently, I want the opposite. I want us to, essentially what he was saying was, I'm paraphrasing here, but I want us to start off slower and I want us to grow and improve. I want us to, I want the line to go up instead of down. And I think if we can achieve that, then we have the makings for a good season. But
yeah, I think you need to keep winning football games while you're
100%.
Because if you're not winning football games in this league now, where there's very small room for error, you're going to fall behind. But guys, I think we'll have some closing comments about the game, and then we can move on to the comments.
I mean, I think
I just want to say,
I think we're done with the comments on the game, though. Unless what did you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to sum up my thoughts. First half was decent up until they scored. After that, not so good. Second half, I thought was promising. I think we need to continue in that vein. Hopefully, we add some minors in. But again, just like I said at the top of the show, man, those fans booing Ole at the end of the game, I think they actually need to watch the football game, because if you can't boo after that game and they're a joke, they're their heads looked. Again, I think the board needs to. The club needs to call out the journalists talking shit about the coach.
With that said, though, Kettle, I would be very curious to see like the people who are now, like for example, on Eagle Media being, like they're praising it. If this match ends 1-1, I think a lot of the people that on social media right now are defending the coach wouldn't be defending him. And that shows how thin the line is right now. And but that also shows how, like what you were saying, like how important it is to win football matches right now. If on Thursday we have a bad performance against Lausanne and we have, for God forbid, a big loss or something like that, or even, honestly, if we don't win that game, I think a big portion of our fan base expect us to win a game against a team like Lausanne. Just like last season against Lugano, after that 3-3, people were shitting on it, even though we played a decent game. Of course, we gave away a 3-1. But then we put the point on the eye the week after, and we trashed them 5-1. So I think, qualifying against Lausanne is going to be super important, obviously. But also on the weekend, we have a game postponed against Kony. But the week after that, who are we playing?
I don't know, to be honest.
Forgotten. But yeah, I mean, it's an away game for
Alanya,
and it's away, right? Yeah. So that's a potentially tough one, right? So like, I mean, it's important in these early days that we do keep on winning, because whether it's fair or not, Ole is under a lot of pressure right now, and he's one bad result away from getting a gigantic shitstorm. Because, I mean, look, yesterday he already got a shitstorm over him from, like we talked about at the top of the hour, a media that has malicious intent. But the fans are going to go along with that once those results, if we're not winning games anymore, I think a very big portion of the fans are going to go along with it. Because I even still think that, like, I was surprised by the positive reactions on social media, but there were still plenty of fans who were buying into all of that stuff, I
think you're surprised, Karen, but I think the fact that a lot of fans did come out and support, I think that's the right thing.
And hopefully it scares those journalists a little bit. Hopefully hopefully
that they've lost their fingers not on the pulse anymore.
I think, for example, if you look at Shafak Malatya, he got a lot of negative response to his negativity towards Ole, and he turned 180 degrees, and now he's pushing Ole to stay and all that kind of stuff. But then he has guests on his show who are hypercritical, so maybe he's playing, kind of a double agent there, where he's like, I'm gonna stay nice, but I'm gonna let these guys do the trashing for me.
Yeah. That's probably
all right.
exactly
I
right.
think that will cover it for the thoughts on the game. Unless Sinan, you have anything left to add?
Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'm happy we won. Not all of our rivals can say that they won
That's
their
true.
first.
But granted, I mean, Fenerbahce had one of the toughest away games, and I think it's so typical. It's so typical. Fenerbahce have Göztepe away in week 2, and Galatasaray have like Gaziantep away, and then they have and this. I feel like that this has been like the norm in last couple of seasons. Like Galatasaray always get like these dominoes set up for them to knock down, and like their first actual tough game is like 7-8 weeks in or something. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I hate that.
And anyway, let's start with the comments.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna note this.
Sinan, do you want me to do them? I have the comments up already.
I've got them too. I can do them, but we stay with me because we're gonna need you for some Turkish ones at some point. I saw. Yeah. So we're gonna begin with Onur Seçer. Welcome back, sir. He says, I think about important thing to talk about is the quality of our football fields pitch. Yeah, we did talk about that. And Kartal astutely pointed out that we handed it over to that political organization and they did us dirty. So thanks for that. Ozkan Zerzavaci, Mr. No Comment. A win's a win.
Certainly is.
Sure is. And it was a pretty good win. Like that second half was one of our better halves in a while. I mean, we've had a couple good halves this year actually, but Ray Wolf starting out hot with the #1 commentator. I think he may have slipped since. It was good to see these turds finally running for the first time in a long time for the 90+ minutes. Yeah, the press was really solid, especially in that first half. I will say that the bad stretch that we've all agreed was like the one stretch where the press was a little lazy, and I'm glad that they put it back in place.
They've come far if you think about it, because like in the first Shakhtar game, it was only Tammy who kept going, right? And everyone else was kind of like faltering. And like we've seen an evolution now in these 5 matches already, where the team is keeps on going. Like it's not just Tammy anymore. But kudos to Tammy, right?
I have to say,
he's such a fulcrum there.
Tammy is
instigator.
His head is where everyone's head needs to be at.
Yeah. I mean, if Tammy can pair like his performance with goals, and I think Tammy is kind of like Enesiri in a way, where as long as you service him, he's gonna score. I don't. He misses chances, and we knew that also going in. Like he's got the tendency to miss some big chances. And I think he's not maybe the most clinical striker ever. So he might not be Mario Gomez, who scores in 3 out of 4 derbies. But I think as long as you provide him with chances, he's going to score you 20+ goals this season. And if you can combine 20+ goals, I think if Enesiri had the hold-up play that Tammy has, even if he's not the most clinical striker in big games, I think that there will be a lot more appreciation for that player. And I think Tammy could could grow out to be a real fan favorite.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Nasty Nas there. Good to see you. Really enjoyed the way we played yesterday. The press was beautiful, and we created so many chances. Yeah, I mean, again, the press. We're all talking about that press. My only concern is whether we can keep that level consistently, especially considering we managed it without wingers. Yeah, I mean, we're all waiting. I was gonna say patiently, but not so patiently anymore, man. Carlito, one swallow doesn't make a summer. And now I don't know. It's a beautiful expression. I've never heard it before, and I don't know what you're talking about. Explain what you mean by that, my friend Udal. We were lucky with some of the missed chances by Eyüp. There was just one, my friend. Yeah. If they were a bit better, and that wasn't even like a big, it was a missed chance, but it
was a big chance.
It was a quick moment on the counter, which but you can understand how Mame Thiam missed that though, right, Kartal? It came out of nowhere. He had to rise, kind of it was against the run of play.
We got it was there, sure. But over the course of the game, man, we thoroughly deserved it, man. So.
It was the only big
I don't think that comment's a good way to look at this game. Yes, potentially, if we went 2-1 down at that point, we might have spiralled. But if you look at that game as a whole, I think it's always good to look at games as a whole. We are by far and away the better team, and we thoroughly deserve to win. Should have been a lot more emphatically than it was on paper anyway.
Yeah, agreed. Sebastian Heine, the Not Sporting Director. Hey, opinion on Sancho being on the table. Oh, this is a good segue, perhaps. Says, what's your opinion on Sancho being on the table again? I am not very convinced anymore. Afraid we're getting ourselves into another Ox Immobile situation, considering how low we seem to be on his list. Well, Sebastian, I will counter you on one key element, which is that both Ox and Immobile were at the tail end of their careers, injury-riddled careers that when they arrived. That cannot be said for Jadon Sancho.
Yeah,
as far as their level of commitment or whatever, that's probably what you're really alluding to.
Yeah, so he's not a Dele Alli, he's not an Ox, he's not an Immobile. You know what I mean? He's not a drug addict, or he's not old or injury prone, I should say. He's neither of those things. Yes, his form's been up and down. He's been maybe a bit inconsistent since leaving Dortmund. He didn't live up to expectations at Man U, but again, he was phenomenal at Dortmund when he first played there. He was pivotal in their run to the Champions League final when he returned there, and actually had a decent season for Chelsea last season. Just maybe not good enough to justify the wages he's on, so that's why Chelsea pulled out. In fact, they actually were trying to keep him just on a reduced salary, but he wouldn't budge on the salary. That was the problem there. As Sinan says, his level of commitment, the fact that we clearly aren't a priority for him, I think would be the main reasons as to why not to go for him. And of course, obviously, it's a huge financial burden, the wages he's looking for. So those would be the reasons. I wouldn't be worried about turning into an Ox or an Immobile, though. Yeah,
in fact, I would even go so far as to say that I think I'm not negative on the Sancho stuff. I mean, financials, that's where I'm confused, perhaps. I would say that when you think of his career and where he's at, I think you get the kind of Quaresma effect, and that's big shoes, no doubt. But I just mean, and hear me out, given who he is, where he is, and in fact, even the doubts he has about coming to Turkey, I think if he does end up in the Turkish Super League, he will feel an incredible amount of pressure to perform at a very high level, if for no other reason than to prove that he is above that level and deserves to be playing somewhere else. So I think he'll feel that pressure to the extent that it'll probably positively impact his performance, but I mean, who knows? I mean, if he's fully checked out career-wise, then that'll be his last stop.
I think there's two plausible scenarios there where I think he comes in and he feels the love and he feels the adoration of the fans, and that motivates him. And
that's another aspect.
Lights a fire under his ass. And if I'm looking at the players we are linked with right now, Sancho, Davitashvili, Kerem Aktürkoğlu, Armand Loriente, Leon Bailey, who is heading to Roma, by the way. So
that's done.
That's pretty. I think it's a done deal, right? So he's off the table for us, obviously. But if I'm looking at these players, and obviously Kerem, we all know Kerem well. Davitashvili is not as familiar to me personally. I've watched some videos in the past, and today again, Nasser is a big fan of Davitashvili, so I decided to look at some highlight videos. And look, guys, I know highlight videos, they're not the way to go, and I mentioned this as well. I need to see this guy play for a couple of games, 90 minutes, 3-4 matches, 90 minutes. I need to see what he's all about. But you get an idea from highlight videos, right? And in my mind, what we need is a winger that wants to be on the ball constantly, like Quaresma, like Ghezal, somebody who loves to go at players, whether it's at speed or from stance. It doesn't matter. He needs to be able to do both. And somebody who's able to put in good crosses consistently, and somebody who's maybe able also to score clinical goals. And when I look at that, and I look at, for example, Kerem Aktürkoğlu to me is a player who's more of an infiltrator, kind of more akin to Rafa in a way. Obviously, they're very different players, but I think they're very similar in certain senses as well, where Rafa is somebody that's constantly looking for space in behind. It's looking to dive into pockets of space. and get in behind the defense. And that's exactly Kerem. Kerem is always looking for those openings to make runs. He's somebody that is very good off the ball. He's also very capable on the ball, but he's more a second striker almost. And when I'm looking at Davitashvili, and again, look, this is purely based on highlight videos right now, but I'm not seeing a playmaker on the wing. I'm seeing somebody with a good shot, somebody with quick feet, good dribbling, constantly cutting inside, rarely seems to cross. He's always looking to cut inside. He's always looking to find opening for a shot. I'm not seeing a lot of brilliant passes. I'm not seeing any crosses. So I'm not saying he's a bad player. I think he would be a very good player if you complement him with a good playmaking winger on the other end. Then I think he'd be a brilliant signing. But I think if I look at Sancho, and if you look at what he has in his repertoire, I think he checks all the boxes that if we only sign one winger, I think it should be someone like Sancho and not someone like Davitashvili. If we sign two, if you sign two wingers, then Kerem and Davitashvili are fine. But if you sign only one, then it has to be a creative winger who is tricky, who loves the ball, who is almost a ball hog. Let's be honest, Quaresma was a ball hog. You want someone like that. If you look at Sancho this past season at Chelsea, constantly looking to take on his man, constantly toying like a cat toying with a mouse with the defender. He's very gutsy. He has a good cross. He has a good shot. He has good eye for his teammates. Like, there's a really good player there. And like Kartal said, like, maybe Chelsea didn't think it was warranted to offer him 300,000 euros per week, but they offered him 180. That's still a lot of money. That's still like 9 million pounds a year or something like that. So, I think in terms of profile from the players we're being linked with right now, I think Sancho fits the mold the best. Of course, his financials are way, way, way higher. Like, you can get Davitashvili for a fraction of that. Okay, you might pay a similar transfer fee, but like his annual wages will be so much lower. Armand Loriente, I think, is much the same with someone like Kerem and even Davitashvili, where it's more, somebody who's looking for openings, somebody's looking to score goals. And Sancho does both. And I think if you only sign the one player, it should be someone like that. And I think the chances right now of us signing Sancho, I mean, obviously they're increasing day by day. But right now it doesn't look super likely because there's still 3 weeks in the transfer window. And how much longer are we willing to wait? He's clearly willing to put AS Roma on hold. He's not shying away from that. So why would he shy away from putting Beşiktaş on hold? He's not even super keen on coming,
Yeah, like, I think in an ideal world we sign two wingers. Like, see if tomorrow they said we're signing Davitashvili and we're signing Černý, I'd be okay with that. I'd be quite happy with that, in fact. But if, as you said, if it's only going to be one winger that comes in, I think it needs to be more of a full package like Sancho. It doesn't have to be Sancho. No. If it's going to be one, if it's someone like that can do everything, then if you're only going to sign one winger, that's fine. But I think in an ideal world, we sign a left and a right winger. If you get a finisher on the left and a creator on the right, I think that brings the perfect balance. I do think, though, if we're going to keep the asymmetric style where the right back tucks into form a back three, it should be the right winger should be someone that uses the line. I've asked my friends in Holland if Černý can use the line well and cross to the last line, because I know he actually is left-footed, so that tells me he's more someone that cuts in. But I've heard from friends in Holland that he can go to the last line and create danger from there as well. So if that's the case, he would fit that, and he can do both even better. We always want more options. We always want a player that can hurt the opposition in more ways, so that's good. So I think left and if we can sign two, ideally that's great, and you can have one's a finisher, one's a creator. If we're going to keep to the asymmetric style with the right back tucking in to form a back three in possession, should be the right mid should use the line. But if it's only going to be one man, as you said, I fully co-sign what you said. It has to be someone like Sancho, someone that's like can do everything, a jack of all trades. If you will.
And the reality is as well, I think like the chances of us finding somebody who can do that and being, I think we're never going to be able to find someone of the talent level of Sancho. Like that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
It's the same. It's the same. Like you're not going to find, players of that caliber, Quaresma, Sancho, Osimhen, Icardi, Gomez, like they need to almost be like a broken toy. There needs to be a very, and I think that's what Sancho is, right? Like he's a player that in terms of talent, we have no business of getting. But because of the circumstances of how his whole adventure at Manchester United went and all that kind of stuff, it becomes somewhat plausible. And I think if we go for somebody who's more our level, more realistic, and we want to get the total package, then I don't think you're going to get a player of comparable quality. That's just, not very realistic. And, of course, in an ideal world, we'd get a creator. But I think if you get two really good wingers who can create a little bit, but can also score goals, like a Davitashvili, like a Kerem, like a Loriente, I think if you get two wingers like that, it can still work. It won't be optimal, but like chance creation wise, look at the amount of chances we created yesterday without a winger. Like we can create chances if we have two decent wingers who are confident, who are gutsy, who can score a goal, who can lay off a pass. I think we'd still be fine. It won't be. You might need that talismanic Quaresma Gezal type to win the league, but I think to get second or third place you don't necessarily need to. In fact, look at Galatasaray. They don't have a winger like that. They don't have a creative winger. Yunus and Barış Alper are both kind of players who can score a goal, can assist, but they're not particularly creative players. They're not Gezal or Quaresma players. So, you can perfectly win the league without having it. They don't even have an Orkun in midfield. Like, as long as you have enough good footballers and you have enough players that can score a goal, and they have loads of those, like, if you have enough players that can score a goal, you don't need a brilliant creator. Anyway, shall we get further to the comments, or do you want to add something to that as well, Sinan?
No, yeah. I'm sort of contemplating Galatasaray's squad as you mentioned it. Yeah, I don't know what. It's not particularly well built, is it?
It is.
Yunus does have some good chance creation numbers and did get 10 league assists last year.
Yeah, but he isn't. He isn't a Gezal, is he?
No, it's hard to be a Gezal, man. Gezal was a special player.
But he's not. Yunus is a typical modern winger. He's not. Yeah. He's not brilliant. He's good.
He's like passable.
Yeah.
He's not like Rashica. He's not like a negative. He's like a detriment.
Rashica got 12 assists last season. But I know. It's like look at Barış Alper. How many assists did he get last season? Like probably close to 10. And he got he probably.
Yeah, but yes. That was just in the league, by the way. Though Yunus got those numbers just in the league. It wasn't all competitions. It was 7 goals, 10 assists in the league. That 10 assists just in the league's impressive, man.
That's not bad.
It's not bad, but he's not like a super creative player,
Whereas Rashica only got 5 assists in the league, which was like half what.
He's also shit.
Yeah.
And how many, Barış Alper, look at Kerem. Kerem last season got like 18 goals and 10 or 12 assists or something. I don't know, for Benfica. Like, you don't need to be you don't need to be Quaresma or Gezal or Alex or, Sergen, or obviously these aren't wingers, but, you don't need to be Hakim Ziyech. You don't need to be in his prime, obviously. You don't need to be Tadic to get assists. Like, you can get 10 assists with just laying the ball off, like a low cross, a pass in the box. Like, it doesn't need to be a majestical paintbrush-like cross just, fluffed on the striker's head, like Quaresma used to do, or like Gezal used to do. It doesn't need to be that. Like, any pass that leads to a goal is an assist. Like, it doesn't matter how beautiful it is,
Yeah. Nasser, that's 3 wins in a row now. Wins are wins, and it's good momentum. Hopefully that win yesterday gives the boys a lot of confidence. Grey Wolf, I'm still astounded and bewildered by what Taylan did. We have not seen that in ages. What he did was a myth. Yeah, he was pretty good. Nasser, what are your guys' thoughts on the post-match comments from Ole? I haven't seen them. Specifically around the pausing of the game and players need to sacrifice themselves.
Loved it.
I didn't see him. I should check that out.
You said, welcome to...
The pausing of the game?
So the question was asked that in Turkey, I think on average the ball is in play only 50 minutes. And Ole said, welcome to Turkey. I've never seen anything like this before. I coached here essentially, and like I'm a firm believer of that the ball should be in play at least 60 minutes. And the things you see here are ridiculous, essentially. That's what he said. So that's actually the first time that we've really heard Ole really, really critical of Turkish football. Like, he's always been super respectful.
There you go.
I think this is the first time he's really kind of lashed out, and rightfully so.
For good reason. Yeah, that is, I've said this many times, like, it almost inspires you wanting to create rule changes. Like, I was thinking, maybe we need hockey rules where you like a penalty box. So like there's something between, like there's a card where you get sent off for like 5 minutes, and that's what you should do to someone for time wasting excessively. Like, fuck you, like you hurt your team for 5 minutes. Like, not enough to like permanently fuck up your team, but enough to make you think twice about it. Especially with goddamn like 50th minute of a game. Like, dude, the second half has just started. We're not playing. Like, fuck off.
If you're staying down an exorbitant amount of time, and you don't have a head injury, you're not bleeding, you don't have to be subbed off, you're not clearly like concussed or something, and you're like quite obviously just wasting time, I think you should be sent to the side for 5 minutes. That would be great.
Yeah, penalty box.
Yeah.
I like it. Anyway, Grey Wolf. We did that. Astounded. Ahmed Hamdi. Welcome back, Ahmed. Exactly, I believe they're going to get better with the management pushing for more signings and squad refinement. There's some hope with that team, finally. Carlito, Ole's pressers have improved by 100%. This one and the last were spot on. Sounds like the honeymoon is over, which is good. Kind of what you were just saying, Con. Grey Wolf, I do wish the players were not hesitant in shooting. Gas. Number 7 had a few on target. Ugh, I just puked and now have diarrhea. Like you and the rest of the team. Yeah, I mean, he had that one shot that should have gone in. That was like the football gods were not favoring Rashica, but I don't know if he had a lot of other shots. I mean, I will say the one, although I think João Mário was fantastic, he had an open goal and waited like 2 seconds and then took the shot when it was too late. Like he had in a moment where we could have easily. I mean, there were a couple moments like that. Rafa had a few moments where he could have just placed his shot and he would have scored. Anyway. Nasser, he already showed it yesterday in his first game. Anchored the defense and gave Orkun the license to push forward. Oh, we're talking about Ndidi. Ndidi's signing could transform us. Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Let's hope so, yeah.
For the most part. Grey Wolf, has João Mário found his stride? Especially him starting. Well, and again, I think we would do better to have a more out-and-out dedicated winger starting.
Yeah.
But for sure, I think João Mário, if he stays with our team, despite us getting a winger, he will, without any doubt, be the best player coming off of the bench in the Super League by a mile.
Yeah. I think he's going to be a great super sub for us, man, if we get the right player.
Yeah. He, and then with Demir Ege and Kartal Kayra Yilmaz, if we can get Svensson coming off the bench, I mean, there are things we can do to improve the first team that will actually improve the bench in such a way that might even be more valuable to us, given where we've been in the past with like injuries immediately fucking up our season and shit like that. Yeah, I don't know. We have a little bit of cause for optimism, which is nice. Let's not dampen that too much. There's some comments later on. They're like, "Oh, let's not get too excited." Like, on the other hand, let's get a little excited. We just won a huge match, first match of the season, beautifully done. Anyway, Carlito, Taylan Bulut, money well spent. Euro 6 million, probably made possible with Jedson's transfer fee as Schalke probably demanding cash up front. Yeah, for sure. I mean, money well spent. We'll have to wait and see. It was a lot for a player, but great first signs for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Nasser, I said it yesterday. The style demands huge fitness and energy, and it also exposes our fragility at the back and lack of recovery pace. Yeah, but Ndidi can kind of shore up some of those weaknesses in the back, and I think, as Kartal and Khan rightfully said, we're gonna struggle a little bit with fitness as we go through the kind of growing pains of, becoming accustomed rather to that higher pace and energy that we need. But I think once we adapt to it and settle, it's easy to see how this will benefit us. And as again, Kartal said really well, like we saw this under Valérien Ismaël, and it was something that like after he was fired, we still saw the benefits of for months afterwards.
I honestly think. Yes, we should replace Paulista with a faster centre back, so that would take that recovery speed. So
ideally,
I talk about Axel Diassi. So personally, I think he'd be a good candidate to replace Paulista because he's fast and he's a good passer. So that seems to address like two of the biggest concerns people have about a centre back tandem is that the pace and the passing ability, which Paulista actually does give a lot of good passes, man.
Great pass.
It actually gave a great assist to Rafa's goal. Obviously, the taking the finish was the main thing, but it was a good pass from Paulista for that goal. But I think because he is older, he's pretty slow, man. When he's caught one-on-one, he can look a bit sluggish. I think in an ideal world, we replace him and bring in someone like, for example, Diassi, as I mentioned.
I think the main issue with him is defensively. The last couple of games, he's been really weak defensively. He looked very bad on a couple of those goals from Shakhtar. Didn't look great against St. Patrick's either.
Yeah, he did that.
Yeah,
I don't think there was anything to note yesterday, but you're right, Karen, in general, he's not looked good so far. Apart from this game, I don't think there was anything yesterday where I thought, he looked bad there, to be honest.
And the thing about his defensive ability is he's shown time and again he has it, and he on his day he's an amazing defender. Honestly, the problem is that you can say on his day, and what that means is that there are days when he's just not there, and sadly it seems like sometimes those are the bigger matches occasionally. I mean, he's had some great big matches too, but
and if you already have that that injury proneness, which is a huge question mark, if you then also aren't like a stalwart at the back, plus he's on 3 million a year, and
I think that look, the best argument, however, just is that he's as old as he is, and like we're gonna need that replacement pretty soon, if not already. And so you might as well be prudent and like bring in someone who can at least challenge him for that starting role now. And then, like if we have a season where he and someone else are kind of competing for that spot, and the other one is on the bench, again, you've benefited our depth in a major way. Because then you don't have to see Tayyip Talha or Necip coming up.
Expensive depth option.
It's expensive. And it really, what's maybe harder to imagine is us getting rid of enough other foreigners that you can actually have a guy like that.
Plus, you need to also imagine he still has a full year left on his contract after this one, and I think you have a far better chance at offloading him when he's a starter.
Yeah, this might be the time to offload him if we can. Because there's offers from Brazil, Vasco da Gama.
Apparently Vasco da Gama's sporting director was in the stands yesterday to watch Gabriel Paulista, and there's another Brazilian club supposedly interested, maybe Corinthians, which he's been linked with in the past. But we keep hearing from this Brazilian interest, but like, look, there's like what? There's like less than a month left in the transfer window now. Like, guys, if you want him, come now so we can sign
shit or get off the pot.
Exactly. so we can sign a replacement, because if we lose Paulista like 2-3 days before the transfer window closes, or even transfer window is open longer in Turkey, but like if we lose Paulista after or just before the Europa League registration closes, then we cannot really justify letting him go at that point, right? So like they need to come on time.
Yeah,
they need to give us at least a week to find one before the and even then, like if they, let's say they come and they sign him and like they say, okay, Paulista leaves all his money on the table and he leaves on a free, because that's realistically what's gonna happen because he's on 3 million a year. Then you're left with like a lot of pressure to sign a capable central defender in like a week or less. That also is going to drive
more than capable, right?
It's got to be starting and that's going to drive up the price of whoever you want to buy because there's pressure on the pot there.
Yeah. No, I mean, look. Ideally, the move is you get rid of all of the guys on the fringe. You free up all those foreigner spots so that, like, worst case scenario, okay, like we'll have Paulista competing with someone. But I mean, look, there's a lot of what ifs in that scenario. Not to mention, can we afford that? Anyway. Back to the comment. It was a nice little foray into the theoretical, I suppose. I
mean, I think we can
Yeah, we did that. Hawks Honcho. I like Taylan Bulut already in 2 minutes. Yeah, good to see you back, Hawks Honcho. Nasser, Thailand had a solid cameo, only joined camp 2 days ago. Yeah, we talked about that. Grey Wolf, I loved Ole's Q&A where he talked about the refs flopping. Yeah, we got enough of that. Sorry, guys. Some of our heavy hitters, I'm going to breeze past some of these if you guys don't mind. Atılcan, probably Demir Ege's most important outing as a Beşiktaş player. Yeah. I mean, you could say some of his poor performances were more important, and unfortunately, he didn't step up. But this was certainly his best outing. I think we could all agree.
Especially in stint number 2.
In competitive matches.
Well, yeah, but this new, like in the second stint now, we should call it. I think after the loan, I think it's been the best performance in competitive matches, like you said. Yeah, because he looked good in the friendlies, but questionable level of opposition.
Matter. For sure. Nasser, still can't believe Rafa and João Mário missed those sitters, especially João Mário. That was literally an open goal. Yeah, I was just talking about that. I wish we'd get one of those breaking news Beşiktaş have signed a player moments during these live streams. You, no kidding, my friend. We're all wishing that.
Maybe we should just we should pull a Firat Günayer and just go live on the air every day. No, just go live every day.
Oh.
And that would be a good time.
Just hope it hits.
We might be able to get to our 4,000 watch hours like that.
There you go.
I mean, we're close. We're
drag them all across the line with them.
We're like 85 hours away, so we're really close. I mean, we're like almost $300 away just a few days ago. So we're getting there.
Carlito says, "Freaking Eyüp and their goalkeeper." And then watch Ole get fined by the PFDK for that playtime remark. If he does, I'll send him a donation to pay her back. Nasser, that ref should be on the FBI watch list. Atil, defender can have the right intention with a tackle, but especially in a last man situation in the box, it requires proper punishment. It was a PK and red. Yeah, I agree. I sent a video in the group chat with the João Mário offside. The ref was completely looking the opposite direction. Oh, great. Like football point system, the same should apply to refs. Yes, we agree. Grey Wolf. Hazal Duman. I felt bad. We skipped his comments last episode because it was like late night for these boys. But so yeah, it's good to have you. Welcome aboard. Sorry we didn't read your comments last time. He says they didn't even show the offside line simply because there wasn't one. I think Rashica will work better with Thailand. To be fair, playing with Svensson just doesn't work. I don't know if Svensson is the problem in the Rashica duo.
In that duo, he definitely isn't the problem. I mean, I'm a big Svensson fan, and even I have to admit, like he's losing his.
He's been off.
I think he's just I mean, he's 32, 33, right? Like he's probably losing a step a little bit. I really liked him in the early months when he played for us, like the first season, and then last season I think he had a couple of really bad games, like Ajax and stuff like that. But he was coming off an injury, and like you could forgive him. But like this season, like I feel like, maybe it's in part because he's kind of been told for like 2 months now, like we don't want to continue with you, yet he's still here. So like maybe he's also kind of like mentally checked out a little bit. Although I think Svensson is a model professional. So
yeah.
And also,
he was excited when we scored yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of those. Yeah, he was jumping up in the air and celebrating like crazy. So like, he's still very much.
I mean, this is why, and guys, this is why the Fire Ole people need to shut the fuck up. Because I don't know if you guys saw the bench and how. I mean, these guys are checked in. They're playing for each other. They like the momentum. The morale is back. Like that's,
you definitely.
We have to remember where we came from, man. Yeah. We were on the verge of collapse.
Yeah, no, and that's also something Ole said. Like, where were we 4 years ago? Where were we 3 years ago? Where were we 2 years ago? Where were we 6 months ago? Where were we a year ago? Like, you need to keep that in mind as well. And like, I mean, it's if you think that Ole isn't the Messiah, I understand that, but then you also need to see like. Realistically, what can we bring in right now, right? Like the only option is a Turkish coach because no self-respecting, half-decent foreign coach is going to come in at this stage. Not after you just proven once again that you're a typical Turkish club and you don't have patience and you don't give people time, because at the end of the day, Ole is still in the middle of a rebuild of a squad. He still hasn't been given a freaking winger. And like you expect him to perform miracles, and then you think Roger Schmidt is gonna come? You think he's gonna come after Ole Gunnar Solskjaer just got fired after 6 months or 7 or 8 months?
For no apparent reason.
For no legitimate reason, just because the fans are too impatient and they want their baby to come out of the womb and start running. Then skip the whole
and start scoring hat tricks.
Exactly. Like the kid doesn't come out the room running and scoring goals. Like they throw him down the cliff like the Spartans. You know, I mean, it's no self-respecting coach is gonna take this job. We need to give Ole at the very least until the end of the season, and then once you've hopefully laid some foundations for the squad, and if at the end of the season you say, okay, Ole, you know, we aren't quite happy with what you've been able to do with the material that we've given you over the course of the year, if you then amicably part ways, then maybe you can convince a Roger Schmidt or somebody else. But if your magical solution is Sergen or Şenol Güneş, I'm sorry, but like then you deserve to the last 4 years for another 4 years. You just deserve it then. Yeah. If you're one of those people who's wholly convinced that only a Turkish coach can win the Turkish league, I'm sorry. I don't want to discuss football with you then because it's pointless.
Yeah. And to those fans in the stadium that booed Ole when he came and did the Ushlu or whatever he did, fuck you guys, man. Honestly, like, why do you even go to the fucking stadium? Like, just to be a thorn in our side? Like, you're hurting us. Stop.
I mean, like, get your shit together. I understand the fans. They are in a high emotional situation where it looks like it's.
But booing after a win.
Yeah, but Sinan, it's
on a debut on a magical win.
Match day.
Yeah, there's no defending him.
I don't think
guys. It's match day 1, and for 60 odd minutes, it looks like you're dropping points. Then you grab. I mean, I understand where you guys are coming from, but I also kind of understand where like, I mean, if you don't win that game, like, I agree, you shouldn't boo.
Sure, maybe if we didn't win it, but
like, it's too much. But yeah, it just goes to show you that our fandom is very toxic, you know. And social media plays a massive role in that, despite the fact that surprisingly social media is on Ole's side right now.
Yeah, because they buy into the influencer journalist bullshit. You know, they buy into Firat Günayer's bullshit. They buy into Sercan Dikme's bullshit. Yeah, that's why the club's so toxic, man. Because they buy into the bullshit they read online. Hopefully
making money off their agendas, right?
Hopefully, eventually people will smarten up and we'll see this end. Which I can see some people. I can see quite a lot of people are, man. There's a campaign on Twitter now for these journalists to be blocked by Beşiktaş fans, which is a nice development if you ask me. Because maybe make those journalists reconsider what they're doing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
if
Make
they-
them think twice about
Ultimately, they
stirring
get
up
money
shit
from
for no
these
reason.
interactions.
the only thing that's gonna hit them where they live is if people stop watching their streams and stop
Yep.
interacting with their tweets. But at the end of the day, we're all slaves to the transfer carousel news, and
Yeah, the rumor mill.
you're never gonna be able to get the vast majority of fans to like. If you could like reduce their views by 50%, like they would feel that. They would genuinely feel that because that's money out of their pockets. That's bread off their table. But I think you're never gonna get that. By the way, guys, I'm just quickly gonna check because I have some transfer talk news. So we've already talked about Jadon Sancho. So reportedly he turned down AS Roma this morning. However, there's conflicting reports on that, where he hasn't turned down Roma. According to Alfredo Pedula, he just hasn't gotten back to them at all regarding their offer. So I mean, he's dragging it out. We talked all about Zuriko Davitashvili already. We talked a little bit about Armand Loriente. We mentioned Kerem, but there's no development there at all. Leon Bailey, we mentioned that his move to Roma seems about to be completed. And we mentioned Vaclav Černý a little bit. So, like, these are the guys I had on my list here. Also worth mentioning that Elan Ricardo has joined Atlético Paranense in the Brazilian second division. And apparently, guys, they have a 5 million buyout clause. So imagine if he has a good season there and they end up buying him. He'd be probably the first ever player to not play a single official minute in a Beşiktaş shirt, and for us to make a pretty decent profit on, because we paid 1.9, and if we sell him, it's a 3.1 million euro profit in 6 months on a player that didn't play a single minute other than friendlies.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
If you look at it from that aspect, if you look at it from that side of things, it's good. Although I do believe there is a 20% sell-on clause, so I don't know if that's on the profit though.
It probably will be on the profit, but even if it isn't, it's a million then, So then you make it 2.1 million profit. But still, I mean, you recover.
Yeah, it's still impressive. But what I will say, it is quite damning that it seems like we have given. I think if you put that clause on, it kind of means you're giving up on the player.
I agree.
Which I think is quite damning.
Yeah, very true.
I mean, what's scary is what if it becomes really good? We never even saw him play. Anyway,
c'est la vie.
That's right. Nasser, we badly need that second striker. We talked about this already, but yes, we do.
We really do. And I think it needs to be a striker of a certain caliber. I don't think you just bring in Umut Nair, right? Like, I am a big fan of Umut Nair. I think Umut Nair as a third striker would be amazing, but I think as a second striker, you need to bring in look at what our rivals have, right? Like, Galatasaray have freaking Osimhen and Ricardi. Fenerbahce have John Duran and Enesiri. And I'm not a Enesiri fan, but like that's a hell of a backup striker.
Yeah.
So I think we really.
Fenerbahce are playing a front two just now though, so I suppose Cenk is technically a backup striker who is not who he used to be. Yeah,
Francis Cenk. That's right. But yeah, I think we need to bring in a good striker as the backup. So I really like the Mediterranean links, man. Like, and I know Adales said we don't want to offer 30-plus-year-old players more than a 1-year contract, but I'd make an exception for that just because it's such an important role, and I think you can afford to give it. You can afford to sign one 33-year-old on a 2-year contract, I think, as long as the wages aren't ridiculous. I don't know what Taremi is making at Inter. He's probably making a lot of money, so yeah, you don't want to get stuck with a second Immobile situation, but like Taremi is somebody with aerial presence and all that kind of stuff. I think somebody like that is always going to be useful. Weghorst is somebody,
and 2 seasons is like okay, like you're gonna need him for backup for this season, and for next season, So just a 1 year on a contract, right?
I mean, these players are unlikely to accept 1+1. I think if you have to give him a 2-year contract, like I think if you make an exception for the backup striker, like a Weghorst, like a Taremi, somebody like that, I think it could be really good. on paper. I mean, Weghorst on paper because he could stir the pot.
That's right, because he wants
to play. Yes.
So Umer says Orkun is the main reason why. Umer, by the way, good to see you, sir, Mr. Positive. Orkun is the main reason why we're moving forward. He refuses to pass sideways. He's always looking up ahead. Mm-hmm. And then Attila agrees. Orkun even accepts that he isn't at the level he's supposed to be at. That self-judgment is reassuring and promising. But he sends missile passes all over the pitch. He does, yeah.
Just need his corners to be better.
Yeah.
His corners, his deliveries need to be a little bit better, but also, of course, the players attacking that ball need to be more committed. And that's something that Ole also addressed in his post-match press conference. He was asked about whether or not they're putting a lot of emphasis on set pieces in training, and they said, yes, we're training a lot on that because obviously Galatasaray scored like 20-25 goals on set pieces last season and won a lot of points that way, and we barely scored a goal on set pieces, so obviously it's very, very important. And it's a very important aspect of the game because there's going to be matches in which you're not able to play the best football and maybe you're even playing a bad game. And if you have good set pieces and you can score a goal on set pieces, that can be the difference between losing and a point or dropping points and a win. Like, sometimes you need to get ugly wins, and set pieces are very, very important in that as well.
That's a part of it,
it's
for sure.
It's a massive part of the game.
I mean, their only goal was up. Anyway, Grey Wolf, what we saw is incremental progress with half of the new players and half turds. I think that's why we saw them running and fighting. Perhaps competition with new signings, causing shit players to up their game. Atil says Felix top 2 performer yesterday is quite a hot take.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know. I would recommend you rewatch the match carefully and just pay attention to his performance.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
He was really solid.
I gotta do.
That's what I'm here for.
I gotta do interviews. I gotta make videos. I gotta do all that kind of shit.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're going to disagree with me or call it a hot take, I would suggest that you inform yourself before you say that. Because I didn't go into the second watch thinking that either. But it was just on a careful watch where I saw, and he had a lot of positive contributions. And if you look, I mean, if you want to see, a lot of it's also like he played the full match, the full 90. But you can see, like, I don't know, you probably can't see that, to be honest, but there's a lot of pluses and minuses on his name. So it's not like he had a flawless game. It's just he had so many positive impacts and so many moments where he would take the ball or recover it or intercept a pass.
Really good defensive moments, but like I think one of the biggest criticisms of Felix generally is his build-up play, which people aren't super impressed by. And I think his build-up plays I don't think he's setting the world on fire, and I think in an ideal world you know, of course I'd want someone like Jadon Sancho, but like, you know, he also costs double the money. Like they paid 10 million for that guy, and he's making like 4 or 5 million a year. We paid 5.5 million for Felix, and he's on like 1.8 or something a year. So like, there's a significant difference there. You know, if you want that type of quality, you also need to pay for it. And maybe, look, I'm not saying we shouldn't. Maybe, you know, given the money we're spending now, you know, 6 million on Taylan, 25 on Orkun, 15 on Tammy, probably 15 to 20 on the winger that's coming. So like, we're spending a lot of money. I'm not saying that next year, maybe in the summer, we shouldn't invest heavily in a really good central defender. I just think we need to do that incrementally, and we can't build the team in one go. And for now, let's be serious though. If we're going to replace a central back, it's going to be Paulista. Hopefully, right? It shouldn't be
well into his 30s and more error prone. I mean, at the end of the day, I actually think Uduokhai and Emirhan as a perfect 1-2 rotation for central back, and you have Emirhan kind of raising into that role where eventually I think he will overtake him when he earns it.
Obviously, Sinan, if you get 9 or 10 million on the table for Felix, then you can sell him.
Oh yeah,
right?
I mean
if there's a good offer,
because you can find a replacement.
Nobody's irreplaceable. Like almost nobody. But like, I mean, you know, like everyone's for sale essentially. You know.
I mean, there's even a price for like a Rafa, right? Where you're kind of
I mean, there is, of course. Yeah, of course. If somebody puts 30 million on the table for a 32-year-old player, you would be stupid to say no, right?
Yeah. Maybe even 20. But We've got Grey Wolf. Tammy should have shot the ball early on instead of passing laterally in the box. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Tammy won the penalty and put it away. Also, by the way, he no-looked to PK. I think Attil's suggesting Tammy should have been in that top 2 slot. So. Then we have Grey Wolf saying that Carew is... yeah, I don't know. I recommend a rewatch. That's all I'm gonna say. I thought so too, but like he had some minuses towards the end of his stint at the second half.
All right.
I mean, it was just fatigue, right? And you expect it too because he was pressing so heavily. And look, I mean, he only had 1 goal as a penalty, right? I think if he scores 2 goals like he could have, he probably would be number 1.
Yeah.
And furthermore, for anyone who's genuinely curious, as far as my seasonal power rankings goes, I think Tammy might be number 1. So he's not. It's not like I'm a hater or anything. Anyway, Grey Wolf says that John Carew is someone who should be considered. I think when we were talking about like that technical level that you were hoping maybe
so
Tammy could
long
be
ago. That's 21 years ago, man. Like I don't know. That's 20 years ago. 20 years ago.
Attil says best hold-up player since Gomez regarding Tammy.
I mean, I didn't think Gomez's hold-up play was that...
That wasn't his strength at all, yeah.
I don't think it was his strength, no.
He was a fantastic finisher.
He was fine, but his passing wasn't great. Like, he was an average passer, I'd say.
He was a killer. That was his main attribute.
Yeah, he was an absolute clinical killer, yeah. He was...
Yeah, he's a poacher.
I'd argue, together with Icardi, probably the best pure finisher. And maybe Jardel, but I don't remember Jardel that vividly. But like I think together with Icardi, probably the best pure finisher to ever play in the Turkish Super League.
Yeah. Grey Wolf says, can the team recall loan players anytime they want? That's going to depend on the deal we make with them. You know, sometimes you have a clause where you can, sometimes you have clauses where you can't. So that's case by case.
The general rule of thumb is if there's a loan fee paid, you can't recall them. I know that from Championship Manager. Or from Football Manager.
But yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah,
You wouldn't pay someone money and then like have them give them the option to.
That is why we got paid a significant amount of money for Weghorst when Manchester United wanted it because we.
That's right.
Because we paid. Yeah. I don't know if we paid the loan fee, but we were paying at least his wages in full. So
yeah, there was some financial arrangement.
Also, more recently as well, Gareth Asserai got like 5-6 million for Morata as well, supposedly.
Yeah, but did you see what Morata said?
Yeah. Apparently the figures aren't true.
Yeah. I mean, they did the same thing with Bakambu. They sold him to Real Betis and reported the fee at like 5 million, but in reality, that was just the wages that they wouldn't have to pay him. In the next 2 or 3 years, I think they've been doing it on all of their transfers, where they're reporting a much higher transfer fee in order to free up.
It's corrupt.
It's just plain corruption. Yeah, of course. But it's Galatasaray, man. Like that's how they do shit. Like they're the shadiest of the bunch, man. Like if any Galatasaray fan out there is watching this, like I can tell you. With 25 plus years of following Turkish football, they're like Fener is shady, but like there's nobody shadier than your club. Genuinely, the shady shit you guys do is not normal. Especially in recent years, it's just been laid on so thick. And in Turkey,
Kartal, we need you for this. Yeah, what was that under the table shenanigans? Little bit covered bizarre shenanigans. Kartal, we've got this is the Turkish. So Bekir comes in. Biraz da Türkçe konuşun anlamıyoruz.
Yeah, he's saying can you talk a wee bit Turkish? I don't understand. And then he asked about subtitles after that, and some of the boys said that basically they explained the reason we do this podcast. And I said that subtitles will be uploaded tomorrow. Yeah. So I mentioned that, and then. I'm tired, man. Sorry.
I don't know if it. I mean, there's.
Ura basically says that he hopes that he can watch it tomorrow with subtitles. He hopes he enjoys it, kind of thing.
There's probably a way for us to do live subtitles in Turkish. I've tried to find if we could do it. Like And there's,
Yeah.
but it's not easy. I think. I think as AI advances, it'll probably get easier and easier. In fact, I got a notification recently by YouTube where we apparently, as a channel, are going to get our videos are going to get dubbed. Apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently we're gonna get dubbed.
That's gonna be weird. I wonder what voice they're gonna give me.
I mean,
my dubby.
Maybe they use like AI to mimic our voice and just dub it that way or something. I don't know. I'm very.
Oh my
That's
god.
pretty funny.
I'm very.
That's pretty funny.
I'm very
That's
curious
crazy.
how that's gonna work out. Yeah.
But so thanks to everyone who weighed in there. Atul Jan.
But yeah,
Udal. By the way, I always forget Udal's name, Cartel, because we've given him so many nicknames. He's I'm
the
always
financier,
like,
the financier,
the financier, the indubitable,
the indomitable,
Dutch Turk?
Dutch eel. But like in terms of the subtitles, so they take a while. Like the entire video needs to finish processing, and that usually takes about 12 or so hours. So once they're done processing, YouTube auto generates subtitles. Then I run that through AI to clean it up, and then I upload it, and then I start auto translating it to a bunch of languages, among which, of course, obviously Turkish, but also German, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch, Italian, Japanese, Arabic. I do a bunch of languages. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's fun. The international and Beşiktaş international finally shining. Where were we? Grey Wolf. I think if Beşiktaş just gets half decent wingers, even with the squad, I mean, we agree. TT no face. I think
we shouldn't settle for half decent though. We need to it's been such a sore spot for us for so long that we really need to. I think we really need to go big or go home when it comes to the wingers. And that doesn't mean it has to be Sancho, but I think we need to we can't cheap out on wingers. We need to invest heavily in wingers. Because what's the point in bringing in another Rashica, right? Like,
no.
Because that's essentially cheaping out, in my opinion. And then then you're stuck with that player for 3 or 4 years, and then that in turn prohibits you from bringing in a better winger next season, maybe. So I would much rather us just spend the budget on one really good winger and then wait for another winger for next season than spend it on 2 average wingers.
Yeah.
Like I said, incremental steps.
I mean, it's interesting to consider if you think of Sancho. If you think of it as either Sancho alone or 2 wingers, then even the finances on Sancho become a little bit more reasonable, because suddenly the money you would have spent on 2 players you're spending on one.
It depends,
so
right? Yeah, but it depends on who those 2 wingers are going to be. If you bring in Davitashvili and Cherny, is that good enough? I don't know.
No, I'm just saying, if anything, it lends credence to the idea that maybe the finances on Sancho aren't that bad, because if you only have to buy the one...
I think.
Anyway,
see,
I mean, there's still obviously it's still crazy. I'm just saying for what we spent.
Yes, but
you could theoretically spend more for 2 wingers, Sinan, right?
It all depends. He has 1 year left on his contract at Manchester United. He makes about 9 million net. If you pay him 9 million yet only for 1 season, and the next 3 seasons it's 6 million, 7 million, the same money we're paying Tammy essentially, I think that becomes more doable. I also think there's a very big possibility that we end up paying, let's say, if we end up signing Sancho, I think it's very plausible you end up paying 20 million transfer fee, but you only pay half of his wages for a season. And then the next 3 years of his contract with you pay him 6 million a year or something. I think that's perfectly plausible, because for Manchester United, that's interesting, because they can offset their financial income, and that in turn they can use to bring in new players, because they have problems right now with financial fair play, with their balancing their books. They need transfer income to bring in players, but they can perfectly
Mustafa subscribe to the channel.
Pay a portion of the wages of Sancho. So I think that's a plausible scenario But the problem with Sancho is just that it's gonna drag out, and yeah, that's. If you were 100% certain you can sign him on the 1st of September, it might be worth waiting. But the problem is you don't know for certain. And if you end up with a second Angelo Gabriel situation where you're left scrambling and you end up making a bad... Well, I mean, look, I think we all like João Mário, but he wasn't the solution on the wing.
Like, not quite what we needed.
No, exactly.
So,
we needed an actual winger. And if we leave that winger transfer until the deadline, essentially, until the deadline for the UEFA list on the 3rd of September, like, if you wait until the 1st of September and you are expecting Sancho to then sign, and he ends up not signing and he goes to Saudi Arabia like Angelo Gabriel did, then you're proper screwed. Like, so you need to have certain guarantees, and I don't think he's going to give you those guarantees, judging by how he's treating AS Roma. So it's
yeah, I mean, that's the problem. Yeah. The problem with Sancho is you almost want to make sure you bring in, if you are going to wait for that, you have to make sure you bring in some cover in the interim, and then you're talking about more money.
But then you're bringing in two wingers anyway, right? Like, so and then
exactly.
And then if you're
what I'm
saying okay, two wingers or Sancho or one winger, and if it's Sancho, like, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. It all kind of depends at the end of the day of if it makes financial sense to do it. I think if you end up signing him, you pay 20 million and you pay him 10 million a year for 4 years. Yeah, that I don't think that's responsible. But if you bring him,
By the way, a hearty welcome to a new subscriber, Mustafa Hekimoglu. We'll get to your comment in a moment, sir.
Hi, Mustafa. Don't forget to hit the notification bell and hit the like button. Everyone who's watching, please hit the thumbs up. I very often notice, guys, you're not hitting the thumbs up enough. Please do that. Make a habit out of that. Also for our videos, my recent video on Ndidi, our European preview, go and watch that tomorrow or something. Please click the thumbs up. Make a habit out of that. It really, really helps us a bunch to grow the channel. And if you like what we do, you should want us to grow the channel, right?
Yeah, exactly. Grey Wolf, also Thailand does not have a future sale percentage.
Yeah, that's true.
That's awesome.
That's true. Yeah.
Apparently Beşiktash has officially listed the squad for the Lausanne match.
Yeah.
I mean, which could still change if we make any changes
I think,
between now and then. We have until the 24 hours before.
Yeah. I think you can submit one or two names.
Two new players.
Okay, so
two before 24 hours.
But let's be honest. Like, it's Monday. Like, realistically, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, even if they make the squad, they'll be on the bench. So whatever.
They would definitely not play in the first game, even if they. Yeah. But realistically, it's gonna be an Ndidi situation where you're probably not gonna be able.
But it could be useful for the second leg, right?
Possibly.
If we could get them in before the first, at least they'll be available for the second match. Anyway, so apparently Trabzonspor won. They beat whoever they were playing 1-0.
All right.
I forgot. I think they actually had a pretty decent opponent.
Kudos to them.
Gaziantep fired their coach apparently as well already. So that's happening.
So I read earlier that Burak Yilmaz is the Gaziantep coach and wants one of our players. So is he fired or has he just been hired?
No. He's so yeah. I think Grey Wolf made a mistake. So he thought that they were going to hire Burak Yilmaz, but he's already hired by Kasım Pasha. So,
that's true.
No, he left them, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow! So you were wrong twice, Grey Wolf. Sorry, Jesus.
Clearly didn't watch the bird's eye view.
That's right. I did, although I didn't. Maybe I didn't make it that far. Grey Wolf. Tammy seems to be correct transfer, not just his talents, but also his mentality and personality, much needed in the locker room. Yeah, I'm gonna pass through some of these, Grey Wolf, because they're kind of touching on things we already talked about in depth. Finnish kebab. Oh yeah, whatever. He just agreed with what I just passed over. Onur Seçer. It looks like they will make an exception on 30-plus players principle for Lucas Vazquez as well regarding Taremi comment.
I don't know about that, man. Like, that's been pushed so hard in the media, but we just signed Thailand. I don't know. Well, I mean, I think if you I think that you can justify signing him because he's a good player. He's played for Real Madrid for many years, but I don't think you can justify giving him a long contract. I think if you sign him on a 1+1 year deal and then you let Svensson go, then you have a very young, promising right back, and then you have a very good,
you have a player to raise him to be his tutor.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it could be interesting in that regard. It could also help improve. Improve in Thailand. So, but I under no circumstance I think we should offer him a long-term contract. Like I think 1+1 is, that's the way to go there. I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I think it makes sense to get an experienced, like solid, guaranteed starting caliber veteran right back if you can get rid of Svensson. Now that you have a guaranteed, like sort of next generation guy who can step into that role, and ideally, Thailand is good enough that he competes with whoever it is you bring in, or at least pushes them to keep playing well or whatever, given their age. But anyway, that's. Pretty speculative though. Mustafa Karşıyaka, the new guy. Who would you suggest for wingers between the names in the media? We've kind of already addressed this, Mustafa, like maybe right before you subscribed, ironically. Do you want to give us a quick synopsis, Khan, of who you recommend?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Who do you recommend for left wing amongst the guys who are being provided? You listed them just now, right?
I think profile-wise, Sancho is the best out of the bunch. Profile-wise. Now, whether or not he is realistic, whether or not financially it's responsible, that's a different matter. I think if finances weren't important, and if this was a video game, I would pick Sancho. Because he is, I think, profile-wise, maybe not exactly because it's difficult, but like I think he, in my opinion, what we need. This is not necessarily what we need, but from what I see as one of the biggest deficiencies in the team, I think he offers that the most out of all those names. Because he...
By the way, Mustafa, check out, to sort of go more in depth, Khan gave a pretty thorough analysis of why he thought Jadon Sancho was the most kind of complete player and the type of guy who will almost single-handedly,
Well, no, but like for example, when we played Shakhtar, we were talking a lot about Santana and Kevin, and how they consistently kept looking up that direct confrontation with the fullback and kept running at them and dribbling and just being gutsy and cutting inside, going outside, putting in crosses. So they did both, especially Santana. He kept, he cut in, then he went on the outside of the player, put in a really good cross, put in a dangerous shot, and it was constantly going at players, was showing a lot of bravado, good quick feet, tricky, really gutsy, and just wanting the ball, constantly wanting the ball and wanting to be on the ball and building up attack after attack after attack. I think that is what we need, in my opinion. That's the type of winger we need. And if you look at the profiles of the players we've been linked to it, I think Sancho is the only one who really checks all those boxes. Because I think, there's a lot of positive to be said for Kerem. I'm sure, Davitashvili is a player I don't know that well, but I've watched some of his highlights and you can see that's also a player with really nimble, quick feet, very skillful, good shots, but I don't see a real creator there. And I don't know if it's somebody who is insistent on getting the ball all the time. Ricardo Quaresma, he always wanted to have the ball. Gezal always wanted to have the ball. That doesn't mean that Gezal held on to it for super long, but he was always in a position where he could receive it. He was always getting it as well because he was putting himself into positions to receive it. And I think that is what we need. And for example, somebody like Krasica is a player who hides from the ball. We don't need those types of players. We need players that want to take responsibility, that are happy to take the ball, and that can do something with it. And I think of all the players listed, Jadon Sancho is the player who loves the ball the most, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The Dutch Eagle has changed his name to the Dutch Eagle, so he's no longer Carlito. Oh, the end of an era. Says, boom, change my name, at least one less to remember. Yeah. Nasty Nas, my worry with Sancho is he won't come straight in and start. No preseason. Season's already underway.
Yeah,
How long will it take for him to get his fitness up to speed?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mustafa Karshiaka, I just discovered your channel. Well, we're glad you did, sir. Stay tuned for more. We'll be back soon.
We will be, on Friday probably, right? After the Lausanne game.
Yeah, I can't do Friday, but if these guys will be back at the very least, unless they postpone, and then I'll see you then. We're last one. This is it. The final comment. I'm closing the comments here. This is the final thing we're commenting on, and we're gonna wrap this up. We are officially on hour 3 now, so it kind of makes sense.
So we finished 3 hours.
Yeah. Oh no, didn't we? No, we started at 3 and it's 6, so we should be at 3.
I'll check. I can tell you with certainty how long we've been going. We have been going for 2 hours, 59 minutes, and 20 seconds. So hurry it up.
There we go. So final comment goes to Nasty Nas Nasser. Whereas Zurico is fit and ready, played his first league game on Saturday and scored. We don't have time for players to catch up when the games are coming thick and fast. So he's just piling on to his point that he already made.
It's a fair point.
He might hit the ground running.
I think
that's short-term
what
thinking,
we
right?
have emphasized was it's short-term thinking. And I think the single most important thing right now is that we bring in the correct profile. And I don't think it should just be the correct profile for Ole. It should be a profile that will work under any coach that will be in charge of the club in the next couple of years. And I think, I don't know Davitashvili well enough to comment on whether or not he is a profile that could be that. So I'm going to leave that in the middle. But I'll say this. I think you're far better off bringing in the player that is ideal, fits the mold that you need, and being patient with him, even if he needs a month or so to catch up to speed and get into form. Because long term, you'll enjoy a lot more if you go for the player that's ready now to come in, that's fit, all that kind of stuff, but he doesn't fit the mold, and you're left down the road in 2 years with a Rasica situation where you're like, kind of want to get rid of this guy, but he's earning, he's on 3 million or 2.5 million a year, and he's not been that impressive, and nobody really wants to take him off our hands. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Davitashvili, but I'm just saying you shouldn't look at it like that. I think especially in our situation, like realistically, we've said this last week, we're probably playing for 3rd place. I don't think we need to rush that kind of stuff. But
I will definitely agree with you on that, Con. That I don't think you buy a player specifically because they're ready to go right now. Because at the end of the day, you're building a squad that, right? I mean, Ole himself said he's building it so that it's growing incrementally into the season. So, that's almost factored into his plan.
I think we've been very good in our recruitment this season. I think we've gone after certain profiles and we've brought those in. I think we need to stay that course. It doesn't mean that necessarily the club thinks we need the profile that I think we need. I don't know. Or that Kartal thinks we need, or that Sinan thinks we need. I mean, the club at the end of the day needs to decide the profile of player that they want to bring in. And if they're happy with the profile and they can bring him in straight away, then by all means, But if you aren't 100% convinced of a player, and you have a player that you are 100% convinced of, but it requires a little bit more waiting, then I think, it's painful, but you do the waiting. But at the end of the day, if you then don't get your man, you also need to be prepared to suffer the consequences and the scrutiny that follows. So you need, essentially, you can't gamble on waiting and not get your man, essentially. You need to get him. Because you left it this long. You've known since day one of the transfer window and months leading into it that you need a good winger. So there's no excuse for not signing it.
Yeah. Well, with that said, any closing comments, fellas?
No.
Check out Beşiktaş on Patreon, Beşiktaş Podcast on Patreon, patreon.com/Beşiktaş Podcast. Join us on there. Just $1.99 a month. Goes a long way to supporting the podcast and helping our channel grow. Alternatively, you can click the join button and become a channel member for 99 cents a month. It all helps, guys. Every little bit helps. It's just a cup of coffee a month for you, or even less than that. But really, it all adds up. It helps us out a lot. Helps us continue to grow. And like we were talking about earlier, adding subtitles and stuff. I just bit the bullet and went for ChatGPT Pro, so I can start, creating better subtitles without having to go through them with a fine-tooth comb. I can actually go and find all the bish and the besh and the bishash and the bishish and all those words and transform them into Beşiktaş now systematically, and I can train the AI to remember that kind of stuff. So our subtitles continue to improve week after week after week. So it's just small little things like that. It all costs money, and right now I'm paying it out of my pocket. But once we get to a certain point where we get enough income, maybe I won't have to do that anymore, and that would be my wife would like that. So consider subscribing to our Patreon and our YouTube, or one or the other. But if you do both, love you even more. But we love you regardless.
Yeah.
And don't forget to scan the QR code there in between Tammy Abraham and Rafa Silva. That's our WhatsApp community group chat, free to join. Of course, you don't need to be a Patreon member. You don't need to be a channel member. Of course, we encourage you to become a VIP member, but join the WhatsApp community. Join the chat. There's I don't know how many people we got in there, guys. 30-odd people, very active every day.
Good.
There's
It's
lots
sizable.
of chatter. It's friendly. It's amicable. Good discussions, good debates about football. We talk about everything. We even talk about politics from time to time. But it's all going well. It's all very amicable, like I said. So
peaceable.
So consider joining the WhatsApp community as well. And that's all the sales pitch I've got to do. Oh, sorry. One last time, check
QR code there for
one last time. Please go and check out our Wilfred Ndidi video, my interview with Owen from the BBC in Leicester. Go check that out. I think it's 20-odd minutes long or something. Check that out. Leave a thumbs up. And go and check out our preview for the Lausanne game. And leave a thumbs up for that as well. And alternatively, guys, if you're a Spotify Premium subscriber, you can also consume all the Black Eagles podcast video content on Spotify, because we are officially part of a network that is a Spotify partner. So we are also in video format on Spotify, but our content is uploaded a little bit later there. Of course, the live streams are exclusive to YouTube. So for that, you need to watch YouTube. And in terms of watch hours, we need to watch hours on YouTube. So if it doesn't matter if it's Spotify or YouTube to you, do YouTube. That helps us out more.
And so without further ado, and so for new subscribers, Mustafa, hold your hats, hold your butts, buckle in. I'm about to do a jump scare. Let's go Beşiktaş! Peace out, everybody! Let's see it. Let's get the roll call. Shouts to all of our subscribers. Orkun, Mr. No Comment, Derzabachi, Nathan, Mr. Baseball, David, Finish Not Swedish Kebab, Kristen, Berkey, Bray, Michael, Barry, Umer, Mr. Positive Gunal, Typhoon, Yailagul, give me a nickname, Typhoon, hit up the group chat, Sarfer, welcome to the group chat, sir, Dara, the Irishman, Hensey, Mario, 1 and a 2 and a 3, Vargas, Niall, Tariq, Sebastian, the not sporting director, Heinat, the Moon Knight, Vigilante Turk, Mr. Nasty Naz, Nasser, Mr. Manu / Beşiktaş, and of course, the indubitable, the indomitable, the indefatigable, the financier, the Dutch Eagle. Peace out, everybody!